Anyway, yeah, Hassan Piker and Jonas Varoufakis is banned for insufficient support of genocide. Also, Hassan Piker on being banned from the UK, traveling to Cuba, supporting candidates critical of Israel. The National I did an interview with as well. Your favorite Aussie is backing you up. This is slander. I sent him my nudes completely unsolicited. Alexa, they were my nudes. I mean, both of their nudes I got. Yeah, exactly. Oops. Anyway. Okay. So yeah, personal news wise, the UK ban is low-key worthy of an original YouTube vid on your channel. It's too late now, innit? Everybody knows that it happened. I should have just blasted one before. Check previous please before news time. Watch Bosnia's banger. No, I'm not going to. Okay. I got the blast off memes. All right. I'm going to post them right now. Yes, I saw the dubs, big dubs, fat dubs on the timeline. I saw in a hilarious twist of the delicious irony, the court tentatively determined that Denham's reaction to the content nuke passes 3 of the 4 pillars of fair use and is therefore transformative. In all 3 of the 4 pillars that have passed the court cites Ethan Klein's own former case against Matt Haas as a precedent that informs their decision. It's fucking awesome. This is a shit lib apocalypse. Okay. Every single shit lib, every single ultra Zionist, every single person who was just like, who is now embarrassed to openly state their support for the nation state of Israel, or many of them who still do, were in support of Ethan Klein's, litigation, and we'll see what happens. I mean, they can still appeal, but it doesn't look too good for the crackpot team over there. It seems. So shout out to Denims, swag, beast mode, respect. Let me blast off real quick because we have, talking with Giannis about being banned from European countries over anti-Zionism. Senate 70 bill, cool immigration bill. Okay. Ethan Klein lawsuit against Denims might fail. Senate 70 billion immigration bill. California dumps continue. Patrick Bet-David versus Better Hassan. Lego updates. I found out that I have access to Reckless Ben. Unprecedented access to Reckless Ben. I just had no idea that I did. So I will be talking to him as well at some point. Israel merger voice vote fails, by the way. Yeah, he follows me, apparently. I didn't even fucking know. I've been, like, literally asking around. I'm like, yo, where's this guy? What's he up to? What's he doing? Turns out he follows me. Get ready for the is Hasanabi a terrorist searches the sort on Twitter after mentioning Ethan decline. I mean, who gives a fuck? Yeah, by the way, the lawsuit that fucking failed, this was one of the elements. Obviously, like, you might be thinking, why the fuck do I care about this, like, weird ass lawsuit from a pro-Israel podcaster from a pro-Israel podcaster against, like, other people? And it's because he basically used the fucking lawsuit as a fleshlight for all of his other, personal opinions. Very strange. Yeah, he did a whole bunch of weird shit in that lawsuit, and it turns out a normal judge looked at it and was like, this is fucking insane. It turns out that what pops off in the minds of, like, weird, perverted, fake lawyers on the internet and rape tone and Asmongold circles on the internet doesn't actually stand in the fucking court of law. Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff overall. But does this matter? Of course not, because our enemies are stupid. Okay? Our enemies are fucking stupid. Okay? Just remember that. If you're wondering why these guys constantly go, oh, this lawsuit is over, and then there's like 7 million views on these YouTube videos with like some of the sweatiest fucking losers on the planet running around being like, oh my God, like this is over. What epic ownage, without even like thinking about what dangerous precedent this sets for fair use on the internet. Like Ethan Klein almost killed fair use with this idiotic fucking attempt. Thank God the judge was like, hey, dog, your previous precedent that you set in your previous lawsuit was actually pretty reliable in this circumstance. Yeah, they cited his own fair use suit from 2016 and his fucking lost, dude. Today's feel-good story. A federal judge just handed Zionist YouTuber Ethan Klein a brutal loss in his copyright lawsuit against pro-Palestine Twitch streamer Denims TV. In a humiliating ruling, the judge cites a precedent that Klein himself created. In 2017, Klein won a landmark fair use case, Hasanabi versus Klein. After being sued for making a reaction commentary video, it became one of the most important copyright rulings in YouTube history. Creator rights advocates celebrated him. Fast forwarded to 2025. Now, the plaintiff sues several smaller streamers for doing almost exactly what he did back then, watching it, criticizing his video, in an unhinged diatribe against Hassan the Hun, live with commentary throughout. Today, Judge Wesley Su cited Hasanabi versus Klein repeatedly to rule that Denims TV's livestream was transformative fair use. The case Klein won to protect himself is now protecting the pro-Palestine streamers he's suing. Klein's own complaint alleged that Denims used his video for the exact opposite purpose, to defend Hassan Piker rather than condemn him. The court said, exactly. Different purpose means transformative. Klein argued himself into losing. Is he being fleeced by his lawyers? Dude, can you imagine thinking, by the way, this is Israel mindset. Sorry, gonna say it. This is Israel mindset. It's not shocking to me that his lawyer is a West Bank settler. It's not shocking to me that Ethan Klein loves Israel. Because this is Israeli mindset. You think you get to have a say in how people transform your content? Are you fucking stupid? But of course, the way Israel mindset, being spiritually, Israeli, and doing Israel mindset, here's how it works. If you have overwhelming power, if you have a lot more money to throw at a fucking problem, you can actually make people that are smaller than you, that don't have that same financial support, you can actually humiliate them or try to humiliate them when all you're doing is humiliating yourself. And it turns out there are some people, sycophants really, that will support you every step of the fucking way. Because that's what happened with Casey Tron, where he made Casey Tron release this statement and like sign off on a litany of like insane things. In a just world, all these reaction streamers should be thanking her for fighting their fight. Roach, X, and Destiny were celebrating her getting her sued, not knowing if she lost, it would be bad for them because they react to thousands of videos. Exactly. Unfortunately, like I said, a lot of our opposition is either unbelievably fucking stupid or they're just horrible monsters. Okay? Sometimes both. Every single fucking major content creator on this dumbass fucking platform that reacts to YouTube videos with regular frequency was championing this fucking lawsuit, not realizing that if this lawsuit was successful, it would have gutted React content in general. They should be kissing Denims' feet. They should have been fucking screeching at Ethan. They should have been screaming at Ethan, but no, they were too horny to fucking bully a bunch of pro-Palestine women that they don't like, that their fucking dumbass incel audiences would jerk off to the thought of dominating. And that's precisely what happened here, okay? That's what this is. A lot of fucking dumbass losers on the internet were so stoked. We're so motherfucking stoked at the prospect of destroying the lives and livelihoods of a bunch of women that they don't like. That they didn't even think about the fucking consequences. Now, will they actually address this stuff evenly? Will they address it accurately? Will they look at the situation and go, well, obviously, this was a failure, and maybe Ethan should stop, pursuing these idiotic lawsuits, wasting away, like literally withering away and aggressively pursuing people through litigation to dump unlimited amounts of paperwork on them with the hopes that they can't actually fight back because they don't have enough money, so they'll concede? Probably not. Because these guys don't think about anything. It's just pure reactionary nonsense. Anyway, there's more. The court walked through all 4 fair use factors. 3 favored Denham strongly. The only one favoring Klein, that the nuke is a creative work deserving protection, the judge dismissed as not terribly significant in the overall balance. Accordingly, the court finds that the nature of the subject work weighs against the finding of fair use. As set forth above, however, this factor alone is not terribly significant in overall fair use balancing. Because at the end of the day, the work was transformative. That's number one. And number two, Ethan was simply trying to sue people into submission because he didn't like what they had to say. How's that for fucking free speech? But it turns out a lot of people don't give a fuck about free speech at all, especially those who think free speech means, saying slurs and being able to say slurs and have no opposition whatsoever. Yeah. Here comes the Sunbird says, I don't believe this was ever about winning the lawsuit. Where it backfired was Denham's following through on taking it to a judge. Fair use is a robust enough stand to stand its ground, which is probably why Destiny and Asmongold were celebrating it. I would hope that at a certain point, if it doesn't change tomorrow, this will be the second most important court ruling on YouTube and fair use, followed only by 2017's Matt Haas / Ethan Klein. Yeah. Ironically enough, the in-person motion for judgment hearing will be today at 2:15. Scheduling for notice in-chamber order, changing the time of the motion. Ethan Klein, do the right thing. Drop everything, please. Oh my God. It's so stupid to consistently pursue this shit and try to appeal it, please. Now that he's lost, he's going to admit he was doing it to cost Denham's money to try and not look owned. At some point, we got to finally fucking say this was a ridiculous process, right? I mean, Philip DeFranco, Moist Critical, like there's going to be a point where people actually cover this stuff, right? I hope. Yes, there's an insane Abdul El Sayed internal poll that came out that I've seen. It's insane. Like literally insane. It's unbelievable. Anyway, on Denham's showing nearly the entire video, the court said that doesn't matter when copying isn't necessary for criticism. The citation was Hosseinzadeh versus Klein. All in all, the ruling cites the literal Ethan Klein landmark fair use ruling 12 times. 12 times. Every single fair use factor that went her way cited his own case law back to him. Can we talk? Wait. Like, this is a landmark ruling, a game changer once again. And for the record, if you want to know how fucking psychotic Ethan and his stupid fucking lawyer are, this is a part of the fucking documents that they filed where they said it's mostly just shitting on me for some reason. It's like 300 pages, and like most of it is just being like, well, Hassan Piker is actually the Kleins are dual Israeli-American citizens. Hila was born and raised in Israel, where she served as a secretary during her mandatory conscription into the Israeli Defense Forces. While both Ethan and Hila are highly supportive of Palestinian self-determination and extremely critical of Israel and its government, the Kleins support a two-state solution as the best interim solution to the conflict. Not relevant to the fucking case at all, but put that in there. In the wake of October 7th, Hassan emerged as the modern incarnation of the Grand Mufti Haj Amin al-Husseini. Like al-Husseini, Hassan became a passionate advocate and highly charismatic leader. Why is this in the fucking documents? I covered it briefly in the beginning, and I didn't have a lot of time to fucking cover this shit extensively because this was at the peak of amidst the ongoing genocide, and since then, obviously, the situation has evolved. But it's insane to me that there are pages after pages after pages riddled with psychotic screeds such as this one. What is this? Address this? Yeah. No, literally, this is from the actual court documents. It's not a joke. Al-Husseini meets Adolf Hitler, November 28, 1941. He's saying, I became the Grand Mufti of Palestine. In the Denims lawsuit, Hassan is compared to the Grand Mufti of Palestine. Like al-Husseini, Hassan uses massive platform to spread genocidal rhetoric about anyone advocating for the right of Jewish self-determination in their ancestral homeland, i.e. Zionists. The primary difference between Hassan... Remember, this is a copyright suit. This is a fucking DMCA suit. Why is this in the fucking DMCA suit? Is this fair use or not? And there are so many fraudulent slop tuber charlatans that looked at this and were like, this is based. Like, there are so many fraudulent ass charlatan bitches all over the fucking commentary sphere that looked at this suit and were like, this is awesome. Everything is above board here. This is fucking fantastic. What are you talking about? It's a fucking copyright suit, not even against me. It's a copyright suit against Denims. This is what I mean when I say we have a crisis in stupidity. We have a crisis in illiteracy. There is a real, genuine crisis that so many people watched this shit happen and went to like perverted, weird ass fake lawyer YouTube pages where they were like, well, I wear a suit and I'm giving you expert analysis. I'm a lawyer. And everyone was like, oh my God, this is actually incredible. Oh my God, this is peak lawyering. It's fucking over. It's so over. Denims is 1,000,000% done. Denims is 2,000,000% done. Hassan's friend Denims is dead. The only reason why Casey had to concede and settle was because she didn't have enough money. Yeah, this motherfucker wanted to sue me too. At some point, someone has to literally talk to this man and be like, dog, you have kids. You have businesses. You're throwing everything by the wayside. What the fuck are you doing? You've leaned into some of the biggest weirdos on the fucking internet because they're the last people that will offer you a crumb of support. And he just doesn't listen. He doesn't listen to anything. He does not listen to anything. Like, is there no one in Ethan's corner that was like, brother, why are you doing any of this? Please stop. I mean, I said it, but of course he won't listen to me because apparently I'm the fucking Grand Mufti of Palestine from his assessment. Last year, when he told Ethan Klein to drop the lawsuits, the fake YouTube lawyer said, you don't know anything about copyright. Yeah. Hassan, please stop pretending you understand anything about copyright. You can barely read properly. How'd that work out for you? Legal mindset. Here's the thing. Here's the problem. Okay? These guys are fucking losers and they're morons, but the audience demands this kind of moronic attitude. So for them, they won't get punished. Their audiences won't turn around and be like, well, honestly, you really fucked up here, right? You really fucked us up. You told us that this was actually going to be great. You told us everything was going to be fucking fine. Yeah, I retweeted. I said, how'd this work out, dipshit? It's just like, I don't think that there is going to be an actual come to Jesus moment for any of these guys. Okay? I don't think there is going to be an actual come to Jesus moment for any of these guys or their audiences. I think ultimately their audience doesn't want to know the truth. They just want to keep fucking fighting. They want to keep fighting women in general. They want to keep fighting Muslims. None of these creators have even tweeted about it. Yeah, because they're moving on. They're going to move on to the next thing. And they're wrong all the time. Like, this is what I mean. This is precisely what I'm talking about. They're always wrong. And yet their audiences don't care about the truth at all. So they just live in this fucking complete alternative reality. And I don't know how. I don't know why you would want to live there. I don't know why you would want to live in an alternative universe where things are happening in the real world. Okay? Things are happening in the real world and you're oblivious to the things that are happening in the real world and you just choose to live in this like completely hallucinated alternative reality. You live in fucking Narnia where like, I'm going to prison any moment now. You know, I went to prison in China, like, and you would much rather live in that universe and just move on. I genuinely don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. It makes no fucking sense. These guys have What's your jacket's material? I don't know. Why do you keep fucking asking, dude? Jesus Christ. I don't know. Take a second off. What the hell? A top comment in their own sub about it commented about how much the judge cited his previous case and they permanently banned them for it. Of course they did. Of course they did. But here's the thing, like, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do with this? Because this is objectively insane. Like, this is an objectively insane thing to do. But what do you do when everyone else is insane? Right? What do you do when there is a real audience for this kind of insanity where people don't look at this and go, yeah, I think this is maybe a little bit crazy for me. I'm going to move on from this. I'm going to move on with my life and probably not trust these resources ever again. Instead of that, what they end up doing is seek out further confirmation bias preserving idiocy. You're ignoring women. What is this? No, but for real, thanks for actually covering these lawsuits since the very beginning. It's disappointing seeing so many creators who make React content not say a peep out of fear of being called snarkers. Yeah, I mean, it's disgusting. Yeah, the OG fair use suit made Ethan Klein a hero among YouTubers and everyone on the internet. Will people acknowledge that he tried to kill his own fair use precedent? Probably not. I mean, we'll see. There were so many instances where they could have just pulled out of this, right? I think one of the really solid instances where, you know, the fan base could have maybe offered some kind of check and balance towards their favorite content creator, Ethan Klein, was when I showed in that interview, the debate, the fake debate that we had, that he had actually posted about me like 109 or 110 or 111 times or whatever the fuck it was, like 120. I can't remember the exact number. And he couldn't believe it. He could not believe it. He was like, there's no way. Yeah.
Is whether you think someone with money should be able to abuse the court to silence their enemy's speech and expression, because that is the standard Ethan is setting. Not a standard about transformation, not one about protecting intellectual property. It's just the standard of don't piss off Ethan Klein. And if you're not disgusted by that notion, you should be. Ethan would be.
In this country, we value free speech. And what a reaction video ultimately is free speech.
I think if you're a reactor on Twitch, if you make a good faith effort to comment, and if you make a good faith effort to promote the author, to link to them, to try to drive traffic to the original video, I think you're probably pretty much doing the right thing. And that's...
Yeah. You know what's ironic about that is that he didn't target any of the people who didn't do that, right? He didn't target XQC. And when people asked him, like, why the fuck wouldn't you target XQC for this? Like, he literally did that shit. He didn't even abide by that standard. He said, well, XQC agrees with me, so it's fine. And it's ironic because he also brought that up in the fucking lawsuit. One of the main reasons why he thought this was a solid fucking lawsuit was because Denims disagreed with his original assessment. You know? Cooked, legal lightning round. Like, gross, dude. Fucking gross. God damn, people are so fucking stupid.
It's fine.
Fair use doesn't give a shit if you watch the video first or not. I didn't watch this video first.
I knew they would watch the entire video, react to it instantly, giving them no time to form an opinion.
I have to show that I've watched it before and thought, well, I have something good to add. I didn't watch your video beforehand, bro.
A long-form, irresistible piece of content that I knew that these streamers couldn't resist. They couldn't avoid the temptation.
Yeah, I don't know why he also presented this like a fucking Machiavellian plot, too. Like, he was like, ooh, you've fallen into my trap. And then all these fucking morons were like, oh, hell yeah, base, dude. You trapped these women. Ugh, I hate women. I'm glad you trapped them and destroyed them. Fucking idiots, dude. I have no goddamn respect for any of these dumb bitches. I swear to God. Look, the only way I will ever respect any of these fucking dumbasses if they turn around, kind of like Kilotonics and many others who are in the, you know, commentary sphere, turn around and say, look, bygones be bygones. We fucked up initially. We were all Destiny orbiters. It was fucking stupid. And you know, work to correct the goddamn record.
of watching it the second it was published.
It's speech, bro. I don't need anyone's permission to say anything.
You can't just...
Perfect vindication for not watching the fucking context puke, by the way, initially, because he was trying to trap me in that same goddamn bullshit. Imagine having to fucking deal with that nonstop on top of dealing with the ADL, on top of dealing with a bunch of Israel advocacy organizations that are actively trying to fucking deplatform me, that I would also have to deal with a goddamn lawsuit. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. Ridiculous, dude.
Say whatever you want. You can't just say I'm in favor of genocide. You gotta watch what you say. I'm not standing by this shit anymore.
And I'm gonna call out people like Brendan too, because this is just bad for everyone. And it's especially egregious considering the hypocrisy of the whole free speech thing that these guys apparently love so well.
Free speech. You go to free speech. Shut up, dumbass.
You're shutting down criticism and you're pretending like it's a copyright issue. It's not. It's fair use. It's protected speech.
This isn't a free speech issue. This is people are fucking getting way too comfortable slandering and saying whatever they want about people online under the guise of free speech.
There's lots of videos shitting on me on the internet.
By the way, this guy literally calls, ironically, he's the last person who should be calling anybody a fucking pedophile, given his Reddit, his Reddit accounts that were unearthed, but he also literally calls every person that he fucking hates a pedophile all the goddamn time. Talking about slander. You want to talk about fucking defamation? I have his ass dead to rights. I have his ass dead to rights. There is a literal article that he read about the fucking brothel that I went to in 2010 that got raided in 2016, knowing full well that the accusations by the state were wrong and that the brothel was able to successfully sue the fucking state. He knows the truth, okay? And yet he still participates in this fucking slander over and over again. He should be feeling real happy that I don't fucking pursue this kind of shit. He got banned from Celebrity Poker for calling a woman a prostitute? Jesus Christ.
You know, I wish I could just delete them off the internet. You know, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be just convenient?
Like, yeah, he's also literally suing Noah Sampson as well. Again, no consequences. Well, thank God, a judge actually is issuing a little bit of fucking consequences. Yeah, the brothel lies, even though he personally debunked it. Ethan Klein is smearing us on again. He says the brothel was raided for human trafficking in 2021 on leftovers. He debunked the claim himself. There was no arrest about human trafficking. All accusations were unfounded and false. Berlin had to pay 250,000 euros in damages. And Ethan Klein knows that because he fucking read it on his stream next to me, okay, in 2021. But of course, in 2024, when he wants to fucking slander, he plays fast and loose with the truth. And there are plenty of people who fucking despise me who will go along with it. It's just so gross. I just want people to be a little bit more intelligent, man. I want people to be a little bit... Is that too much to ask? Is that a crazy demand that we just, not behave this way? That we have a little bit more care and a little bit more consideration for the truth? It sucks. It sucks. It genuinely fucking sucks. Anyway, I'm going to talk to Yanis Varoufakis now about my ban
but you know what?
From the UK and his ban from Germany for an hour.
You can't
but I just wanted to play this out real quick. I got to pee and then...
and free speech is tested when it's targeted at you.
You can't just say whatever the fuck you want. It's time to start holding people accountable for the shit they're saying.
I fight every day to protect free speech. I put my money on the line, I go to court, and I'll do it as many times as I need to.
You guys have been doing this for years. It's the jig is up. You're gonna have to tell it to a judge, literally.
By the way, this guy likes threatening to sue people. All over fair use and my right to free speech.
And if I wanted to sue you, I probably could fucking ruin your whole life. It'll be great to sue them. I'd love to sue her. I'd love to sue him. I'm gonna sue you. It's not a threat. I'm going to sue you.
We get to pursue legal fees for this garbage, anti-free speech lawsuit.
And to all the detractors who are saying that I'm a hypocrite for suing for copyright infringement, I just have this to say. I don't care.
It's easy to defend free speech when it's got nothing to do with you, right? When it makes you look good. But when free speech makes you look bad, then let's see how much you defend it.
I'm here. Help, Unc. I'm scared. Don't be scared. I'm not pooping, dude. I'm not pooping. Yeah. Anyway, that's the situation. We'll obviously get back to that in a little bit. But before I do that, obviously, I am joining this event. Hold on.
Okay,
Hello.
just join. I'm gonna add him and I'm gonna kick myself out.
Okay.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Hello.
Hello.
What's going on, guys? Can you hear me? I'm live right now as well, for the record, just so you know.
We are alive and kicking, Hassan.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to turn off my camera and then just be live on stream. Okay.
Okay. Let me kick it off. Hello, 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 and welcome. I'm Mehran Khalidi for DN25, and with me tonight, two people whose words are apparently so influential, so subversive, that governments are banning them from entire countries to shut them up. Hassan Piker, banned from the UK earlier this week, and Yanis Varoufakis, banned from Germany 2 years ago. What links these two cases? You guessed it, criticism of Israel for its genocide in Gaza. Both Yanis and Hassan were due to speak at prominent events on exactly that. So tonight we dig into this new authoritarian playbook in Europe to protect Israel, how and why governments are doing this, and what all of us who care about Gaza and human rights everywhere can do about it. Yanis, I'll hand it to you.
Well, Hassan, welcome. And I suspect we are being welcomed to your stream as well. So,
Yes.
It's a double welcome. Hassan and I, just in case people didn't know about it, and I'm sure that most of you didn't know it, tonight, Hassan and I were meant to be live together at the town hall at King's Cross in the heart of the City of London, as part of a podcast that I participate in called The Iconoclast. That doesn't really matter at all. The fact of the matter was we were meant to be together. And, Hassan, my intentions for tonight were to discuss with you the way, not just a way, but your experiences in trying to energize the left-wing youth in your country, the United States, and, to try to extract some lessons from you for the United Kingdom, for Europe, for the non-American world. But of course, the UK government, just like the Berlin authorities 2 years ago, had other ideas. We were found to be insufficiently in support of the genocide. We didn't show enough character in supporting the Israeli genocide of the Palestinians. And, they stopped us from having a discussion about politics in our countries. So, Hassan, off you go.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think I have a lot more confidence had a lot more confidence in liberal democracy and European countries safeguarding liberal democracy in spite of everything that I had seen over the past 3 years. But I no longer have that confidence at all. It's shocking when you think about the history of the United Kingdom and what kind of subversive and, dare I say, radical thinkers the British government has in the past offered a shelter to in comparison to people that simply oppose Israel's genocide of the Palestinians. I mean, it's a sign of the times that liberalism is in crisis. It's failing. It's deteriorating. And the people who are tasked with safeguarding it, self-described liberals themselves, are also participating in the demise. I think that there are a lot broader consequences that we should probably take a look at and see this as a serious warning sign and hopefully organize against it, because we're running out of time. I think all of these actions taken by the Labour government, taken by the inaction by the Democratic Party in opposition to the MAGA movement in America are allowing, I would say, an appeasement phase that's allowing fascist movements to grow in the Western world. And that's terrifying.
Well, Hassan, I think that you owe a debt of gratitude to the British government because it saved you from this delusion regarding Europe's liberalism. It's a delusion that is a very, touching, that a lot of us used to have. I lost it at least 10, 12 years ago. You're losing it now. It's a delusion, especially amongst the progressives in the United States, who think of Europe as, the kind of United States you would love to have. Even, our friend Bernie Sanders often refers to Sweden as an example of a social democracy, but that's 15 years too late. Sweden is no longer a social democracy. Germany. I grew up in a fascist dictatorship in Greece in the 1960s and 1970s. And my parents used to think of Germany as our liberal support group. And we used to take holidays there. Just for my father used to say, my father was a communist, by the way, but he used to say that, when he's in Germany under Willy Brandt and the Social Democrats, he was breathing fresh democratic air. And, but when did I lose my virginity? You lost it now. I lost it 12 years ago. And I'll tell you exactly where I lost it. In the Council of European Finance Ministers, in my first meeting, when I went in there as a socialist, but nevertheless, fully prepared to compromise and to be very, reasonable with all these neoliberals.
Oh, we lost Giannis.
What do we do is...
Giannis, we lost you for a second.
Okay.
You said you went to compromise as a pragmatic person.
And, that's right. So I said, we have a different agenda to yours, but this is what Democrats do. They find compromises. And the German finance minister, the late Wolfgang Schäuble, turned around and in no uncompromising terms said to me, elections should not be allowed to change economic policy. I mean, and I said, well, that is a godsend for the Chinese Communist Party.
I was about to say, it's very Soviet attitude.
So, welcome to the club, Hassan. Europe is not the paradise the Democrats in the United States would like to imagine it to be.
Hassan, I'd love to ask you, it's been a couple of days since the ban came through. What's the response to the ban been like? Has anything actually surprised you about that response?
I've been surprised on both ends of the political spectrum. On the one hand, I have had a tremendous amount of slanderous articles written about me from a lot of pro-Israel institutions like the Free Press or even the Washington Post editorial board that's constantly writing about how I'm a dangerous threat to the American public. And because this was such a low bar to clear, and I guess it was a great way to dunk on the Labor government as well, which nobody seems to like, including their own voters, a lot of people actually wrote The Economist, the Washington Post editorial board, Free Press, and all these other oppositional media outlets actually wrote a defense of me and Cenk and a defense of free speech and free expression in general. So that was a little bit, exciting. And then what also shocked me on the other side was that there were a lot of right-wingers who had made careers off of defending free speech, which from their perspective, it simply meant apparently to the right to be able to say slurs and the right to be able to incite hate and then receive no opposition or no pushback whatsoever. Because a lot of them, instead of defending the principle of free speech and saying, look, you have a right to say things that I disagree with, that's the whole point of free speech, turned around and celebrated the decision of the Labor government, saying, "Yeah, this is well deserved. You deserve this. You deserve this ban." And I found that to be a little bit surprising.
Well, you mean J.D. Vance and Elon Musk did not rush to your support?
No. I'm still waiting on that. I'm still waiting on J.D. Vance because he had conversations with David Lammy and numerous other figures over and over again, warning about the dangers of the UK losing its interest in defending free speech, and he's nowhere to be seen.
Yeah. Can I ask you a broader question? Because we need to talk about Gaza and we need to talk about Palestine because they can't stop thinking about it. It's clear that we were going to go to London and talk about all sorts of other things, but they are forcing us essentially to revisit the question of Gaza. Now, it is my distinct impression, and I want you to tell me whether it is also yours or whether you want to challenge that impression of mine, that, the fascists of the world are doing a splendid job in, washing themselves and their dirty hands clean of anti-Semitism by espousing the most horrible, heinous version of Zionism. Is that your view too?
Oh, absolutely. I think there is this very interesting whitewashing and laundering of the prior anti-Semitic history of a lot of Christian nations, a lot of Western nations, and this abdication of historic responsibility where you hear even the likes of Mark Carney and certainly European leaders claim that anti-Semitism is actually coming to Europe by way of migration, Arab migration, Muslim migration. I find that very strange. I find that really funny and maybe a little scary when I hear that from a German leader, especially because the Holocaust happened not that long ago, right? I mean, there are still some relatives that were around when that was taking place. I read it as Holocaust revisionism to a certain degree, but it's certainly a concept that benefits Israel's ultimate goals, and therefore Israel is perfectly willing to abide by that. And as a matter of fact, Benjamin Netanyahu himself is personally engaged in Holocaust revisionism when he once famously said that Hitler didn't want to actually kill the Jews until he had a conversation with the Grand Mufti of Palestine, a British occupation holdover that had no real sway over the Palestinian public whatsoever. The Grand Mufti had convinced Adolf Hitler of actually killing all of the Jews because he was worried, according to Benjamin Netanyahu, that if Hitler doesn't kill all the Jews, then they'll go to Israel. This is Holocaust revisionism, and it was panned and criticized widely by Jewish society and certainly Israeli society at the time, and yet it's most commonly deployed nowadays whenever there are comparisons to be made between Hamas and the Nazis, where you see a lot of Zionists openly state that Hamas is actually far worse than the Nazis ever were, which I find to be insane. It's an insane statement to make. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because I had a conversation with LBC earlier before I'm having this conversation with you guys, and the host was a wonderful guy, Louis Goodall. We started off we started off having a normal back and forth, and one of the things that they brought up, one of the things that the host brought up was the fact that I make this comparison between Israel and Nazi Germany. And he said that this was very offensive. It was deeply offensive. And I was like, look, I'm not very precious about utilizing the term Nazi when referencing Israel because they're doing a genocide. It's a fascist ideology. That's precisely what the Nazis did. And by the end of that conversation, which turned into a debate almost instantly, I think I think he was almost in favor of the ban himself, even though he started off with not being in favor of it. But the reason why I bring that up is because Israel gets to make these Nazi comparisons. But if anyone opposes Israel that makes similar comparisons, especially because it's actually more historically appropriate to make the comparisons between two, much more powerful militarized countries that are engaging in the act of genocide and the paramilitary forces that are fighting back against it, a fight for their existence, a fight for survival, people get very offended.
Hassan, just to circle back to the ban, you were due to speak at Oxford Union. What were you going to say at Oxford that was so dangerous? Maybe you can say it now.
I mean, I don't really know. It was supposed to be a debate between myself and my uncle. So I maybe Shaban Mahmoud has a better idea of what I was about to say at Oxford Union. But we're still doing that conversation tomorrow. And I don't know what the conversation was going to be about, but I do know what I have said at Oxford Union last time I was there last year. And that was an extensive conversation around the dangers of anti-Semitism, ironically enough. One of the biggest dangers being the false conflation between Judaism and Zionism, and how a lot of conservatives, a lot of Zionist Jews don't recognize that this personal connection that they present is actually teaching people the wrong lesson, and that a lot of people don't realize that Israel is falling out of favor. And at the time, this was a year and a half ago, it had already started falling out of favor. It wasn't as unpopular as it is now because Israel officially is a pariah state in the Western world now, is viewed as such by the masses. But what I was trying to compare it to is like, look, I'm Muslim. I'm a Muslim American, right? Like in the aftermath of 9/11, this would be equivalent to me running around being like, I love ISIS. Like, and if you actually criticize the Islamic State, like, and their attempts to create the Islamic Caliphate, you're being Islamophobic. that argument is ridiculous, right? And that's what it's going to turn into. And that's only going to foment more anti-Semitism and create more anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, especially when you have advocacy organizations actively censoring people. And then I fell victim to that same warning that I was presenting.
Well, can I jump in here? Because there is some degree of a distance between us on one thing. Now, there's no doubt that Israel is using Nazi-like techniques of total annihilation in Gaza. I mean, what is the difference between what the Nazis did at the Warsaw Ghetto and what they're doing to Gaza? Not just since 7th of October, but for decades now. Yeah, it's a ghetto. Gaza is not a country. There's no war. It's a ghetto. They're shooting at them as fish in a barrel. They've been doing it now for decades. It's a Warsaw Ghetto writ large, and that lasts much longer. But I still believe, I hold on to the old-fashioned view that the Nazis were uniquely evil. And the reason why I say that is because, what the Israelis are now doing in Gaza is genocide, and what they're doing in the West Bank is rabid ethnic cleansing. But the uniqueness of the Holocaust, in my mind, I may be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, boils down to the attitude of the Nazis, their mindset that remind me of that of a collector. Take a stamp collector. A stamp collector wants to collect every fucking stamp there is of the particular, of Bolivia or of Mexico, whatever. He needs to put it in his collection, every single one. The Nazis were exactly the same. They wanted to kill every Jew there was. Mm-hmm. Before they set out to come to Thessaloniki in Greece, to go to wherever it is they went to wipe out whole Jewish communities, they had, since in the 1930s, the early 1930s, they had mapped out the cities that they were going to occupy. They knew the telephone numbers and the addresses, if they had telephones back then, of the Jews that they wanted to pick up. They were like stamp collectors. Whereas, the Israelis, if the West, let's say, shoves the Palestinians into container ships and takes them over to Nigeria or to Texas or to wherever, I think the Netanyahus of the world are going to be very upset because they will lose their raison d'etre, which is to carry out the genocide slowly. But they're not going to chase them to the four corners of the earth to kill them all. The Nazis were unique in that, but that doesn't mean that, I take your point, the Netanyahus of the world feel utterly free to make the Nazi comparisons. But if you make it, or if I make it, we're immediately condemned. And also, the other point I wanted to make that came to me when you were speaking is that, this view that the Muslims that arrive in Europe are bringing with them anti-Semitism is pathetic for historical reasons. I mean, the only places on earth where the Jews were completely safe and totally, free, liberated of an anti-Semitic environment, which were those cities? Baghdad, right?
Yeah. The Ottoman Empire was a safe haven.
Salonika, Istanbul. Those were the, Cairo. Those were the places where the Jews never faced anti-Semitism. The moment they came to Europe, it was anti-Semitism galore.
Yeah. So can I push back on this? Because in a comradely manner. So, well, two reasons. One, the Nazi comparison isn't to make a one-to-one comparison regardless, because obviously the Israeli genocide has not reached the standard of the Holocaust yet, right? Yeah. But you brought up the intentionality argument that the Nazis were intending to wipe out every single Jewish person wherever they could get their hands on them. And there's definitely truth there. Now, obviously, there's a couple different scholarly debates on the issue, on this issue in particular. The idea of, like, did they set out to wholesale slaughter every single Jewish person from the start? Or did it evolve into that over time? But that's not the conversation that I'm interested in having. The mentality that I have on this is twofold. One, this is the principle of why we have tremendous amounts of Holocaust scholarship and studies in genocides in particular, so that we understand it, we identify it, we recognize the banality of evil, we recognize how societies can turn into genocidal societies and how people refuse to oppose it. And it's the same principle behind the intentionality debate, or the intentionality of the genocide statute. We have that so that we can stop a genocide while it's happening, rather than oppose it after it's done, and then calculate the death toll, and then recognize that it's a genocide if a sufficient number of people have been killed. But the second opinion that I want to put forward is Amy Cesar, who has talked about the non-exceptional or non-unique nature of the Holocaust and discourse on colonialism, where the passage goes, yes, it would be worthwhile to study clinically in detail the steps taken by Hitler and Hitlerism, and to reveal the very distinguished, very humanistic, very Christian bourgeois of the 20th century, that without his being aware of it, he has a Hitler inside him, that Hitler inhabits him, that Hitler is his demon, that if he rails against him, he is being inconsistent, and at bottom, what he cannot forgive Hitler for is not the crime in itself, the crime against man. It is not the humiliation of man as such. It is the crime against the white man, the humiliation of the white man, and the fact that he applied to Europe colonialist procedures, which until then had been reserved exclusively for the Arabs of Algeria, the coolies of India, and the N-words of Africa. And I think there is a similar situation unfolding here as well, where Arabs, by and large, due to Orientalism and due to the dehumanization that they've been subjected to, are not being seen as human in the same way that the victims in October 7 are. Because the victims in October 7, the civilian population of Israeli society broadly, well, they live in towns similar to ours. They sometimes travel to Europe. They have family members, immediate family members, that live in our neighborhoods. So, of course, October 7 is an exceptionally unique pogrom against Jews, is the way that it was presented to me on LBC earlier today. So it's top of mind for me at this moment, as opposed to my real slight that could be perceived as anti-Semitic, because I've said Israel is 1,000 times worse than Hamas. And as a harm reduction voter, I would vote for Hamas over Israel every single time. You can only arrive at that conclusion if you think, and this ties up with the Nazi comparisons being seen as too offensive, right? Not by you to obviously, I'm just saying broadly when people say it's like unacceptable, right? Because I think we can have a reasonable disagreement on this, but I don't think you would make that the biggest point of contention at all, whereas some people do. The idea is that some people are collateralized. And in this circumstance, Arabs are collateralized. Muslims are collateralized. There's a justification for why they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, as opposed to human beings that are seen as full human beings are victims, unconditionally victims. And this is the reason why I brought up the Amy Cesar comparison, because I think Germany itself had participated in genocides that are mechanized and unbelievably heinous. Belgium as well, and they don't get the same emphasis.
Look, there's nothing that you said that I disagree with. I don't see any contestation there. For me, I'm fascinated by the stamp collector's image of certain Nazis, not all of them, because as you said, in 1932 it was different. I mean, this stamp collector's mentality was very confined in a group of 20 Nazis. But then, as time progressed, I mean, most of the Nazi party in 1935-36 would have been happy if all the Jews were to be evacuated from Europe.
Yeah, Madagascar plan.
For some of them, it wasn't enough. And I think philosophically, this is quite fascinating for me. That when I found out that they had written down whole catalogs of all the Jews across Europe, well before, 5-6 years before they occupied those cities. That is, it's mind-boggling. But it doesn't stop us from making the points that you made, and which are very well taken and received, that, as you said, the Arabs are collateralized. The Palestinians are treated as Untermenschen, as subhuman. There is the other point which you raised, which I think is absolutely spot on, is that, the outrage against Hitler was primarily because he treated the French, or the Poles in particular, as if they were Congolese, as if they were Arabs.
Yeah.
They had no problem with what the King of Belgium was doing in the Congo. They had no problem with what later in the 50s the French were doing in Algiers, but not to white European Christians, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I take your point entirely.
Yanis, can I bring it to present day Germany and what happened to you 2 years ago when you were banned from entering Germany because you were attending the Berlin Palestine Congress? Can you tell us what happened there briefly, and what did it teach you? What might Hassan expect now based on your experience and knowledge in that area?
Oh, by the way, that saga continues. I just heard today that my court case, I've taken the German authorities to court over that ban, is going to be brought to trial sometime in the second part of 2026. And I'm very much looking forward to attending. And it's interesting that I will be able to attempt, even though there was this ban against me. And I would just give you a very brief account of why. Because that ban was broken when BMW invited me to give a keynote speech at their offices. So you see, sometimes capital, goes into conflict with its own stooges' outrageous behavior. Anyway.
But we know who the real masters are, right? I mean, it's ultimately still capital. That's a perfect example of that.
Yeah. So, if Elon Musk wanted to, your ban would have been overturned.
Yeah.
So, but look, in my case, Hassan, I think the reason why I was banned was not something I had said, but because our organization, DM25, we had the audacity to organize a conference in Berlin on the very subversive topic. The theme was a just peace in the Middle East, a heinous crime, right? A just peace in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So what irked them? What made them go through this process of banning me in a way which was actually, it was very clumsy. They were always going to lose legally within their own country. And I think I'm going to win this court case, but of course, too late. I think that the reason why they were so pissed off was because of who the co-organizers were. The co-organizers of that conference were Jews, German Jews, who were treated, because they could not be banned. They were in Berlin. They were in situ. So when people like Udi Ratz and various other friends of ours and comrades, Jews, turned up in that conference, one of them was holding a little placard that he had written himself saying, "Jews against genocide." And he was beaten up by police. And while he was being beaten up...
Yeah, an Aryan policeman.
Yeah, exactly. While he was beaten up, he said, "Would it have been okay if I said Jews in favor of genocide?" And then he was beaten up even more. So, that's a difference. In the United Kingdom, it was just a very vulgar application of the rule that, this Labour government can never go against the Israeli lobby. It really is very simple. In our case in Berlin, it was a bit more sophisticated than that. They were essentially banning me to get at the Jews, the German Jews, that did not support genocide, insufficient support of genocide. This is an outrageous crime today in liberal Europe.
And as they call themselves, they're the wrong kind of Jew in Germany. For our stateside audience who may not be aware of this, Germany is still way ahead of the UK in terms of the extent of the repression of pro-Palestine activism. Just look at the case, for example, of Hussein Dugru, who we've spoken with. GRU. You know it, Hassan. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just insane.
Well, he's another Turk that's being unjustly maligned by the European Union countries.
But you know, I don't know whether you know that in the case of Hussein, we're talking about the same person.
Yeah, Hussein Doğru, yeah.
Yeah. In his case, what his case demonstrates is that the German state learned its lesson from me. Why am I saying that? Because when they banned me, it was the German authorities that banned me, which meant, as a European citizen, I had the right to take them to the German courts. The German authorities did something, I had the right to take them to the German courts. And the moment I took them to the German courts, they were in a bind because they could see that they could not win that court case. This is why they've been delaying it. You know, the hearing of this trial has been postponed again and again and again. Now it's almost 2.5 years. So in the case of Hussein, you know what they did? It wasn't the German authorities that went for him. It was the European Commission under Ursula von der Leyen that banned him, and she created a delicious catch-22. That is, he's banned from exiting Germany by Brussels, not by Germany. So he cannot take the German authorities to the German courts because they didn't do anything against him. So he has to take them to the European courts in Brussels, but he's banned from traveling to Brussels. You know, that is ingenious, isn't it? I mean,
no, it's devastating.
In a much more sophisticated manner.
Yeah, and the sanctions on top of that. And I do find that there is a delicious irony in not just that, but also that recently France got a little bit of the same kind of medicine that they dished out to the likes of Hussein Doğru, where, if I recall correctly, there was a French prosecutor in the either ICC or the ICJ that was victim to the American sanctions because of, you know, their following their job in prosecuting Israel to some capacity, or Israeli officials in some capacity, and Visa, MasterCard, and all of these other American corporations, which dovetails perfectly to your latest book as well about techno-feudalism, decided to abide by American restrictions that were applied to a Frenchman who was a French judge on an international court doing his job. And now all of a sudden he couldn't use his credit cards. And this became a major issue for France because this was a violation of the sovereignty of a European citizen who was simply doing their job. It was the ICC judge, is what my chat is saying. They're correcting me. So that's precisely what the European Commission has done to Hussein Doğru, trapped him inside of Germany and gone far beyond that. As a matter of fact, I believe not only he is sanctioned, but his family is also sanctioned. He has like a minor stipend that he gets. And that's the only money that he can have. He can't use any of his bank accounts. His family can't use any of their bank accounts. So they're genuinely suffering right now in this torturous legal limbo. And again, that is so unbelievably unprincipled for Europe to do. It shocks the conscience. And yet, for some reason, there isn't mass protests against this.
But you know what? You mentioned Nicolas Guillou. That's a French judge. The judge who was appointed by the French state to the International Criminal Court, right? I mean, he's doing the job that the French state gave him, and the French state does not defend him from being debanked within France. He cannot book a hotel room in his own country. And, but you said something that I need to correct to some extent. You said there was a big hoopla in France. No, there wasn't. There wasn't.
I read some articles about it, so I might have
Yeah, a few articles. But you know what? It's not a big issue. I mean, those of us who are, totally clued in, and the Mélenchon followers in France and so on are making a big song and dance about it, rightly so. But it is not as big an issue as it ought to be. You see, like the rightists who didn't defend you on the basis of your freedom of speech, which supposedly is their number one priority. Similarly, what happened to all the Gaullists? All the right-wing Frenchmen and women who claim to care above all else about French, national pride. They
Sovereignty.
were silent. They were silent.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I find really frustrating when I have these conversations, because I have an international audience as well. And one of the things that is so unbelievable to me is the idea that European states have become total vassals, right? And we saw a version of this when the Trump administration, with all of its bravado, decided to claim to lay claim over Greenland, right? To annex Greenland militarily, potentially, and all of these European leaders were like, "What are you doing? This is a NATO country's, territory. You can't do that. We'll give you whatever you need. What do you mean you want to militarily annex it?" And there was this big chaos, and I thought maybe this would be an opportunity for some European leaders, some political opposition, with the exception of obviously Mélenchon, to use this crisis to remind people that Europe should remain sovereign. Middle powers, when they come together under the banner of the European Union, for example, are actually a fairly powerful force, a very important market, for example, and yet. No, they went back to business as usual. I mean, Macron's text messages, the private conversations that he was having with Donald Trump, showcased their highest priority. He was saying, like, Mr. President, don't focus on Greenland. Let's focus on Iran together, which we now know was also another spectacular quagmire where Europe is once again a victim of its own servility.
Rutte, the former Dutch prime minister and currently top dog at NATO, because he's an idiot, he told a fascinating truth. He let it slip. He was saying this as something which is good. He actually stated it for the record on camera that NATO is not about European defense, but it is a foundation, a platform from which the United States can project its authority, its power globally. So in other words, we're being used as a military base for America to conduct wars against enemies that we don't have in pursuit of interests that clash with our own. But, Hassan, I have never, because I come from a communist background, and my father, and because I cut my teeth demonstrating against NATO in the streets of Athens in the 1970s, I never had absolutely any illusion that Europe was ever sovereign. I mean, in the case of your parents' country and my parents' country, right? Turkey and Greece. I mean, we were told in no uncertain terms, you have to go into NATO first. And then we'll talk about anything else, right? Yeah. In other words, first you grant military bases, nuclear military bases, the United States of A, and then we can talk about anything you may be interested in. So, think of Portugal, think of Spain, think of Albania, Northern Macedonia, Greece, Poland, all those countries, in order to be considered for the European Union, they first had to kiss Washington's ring. They had to enter NATO, with the exception of two countries, Ireland and Austria, because that was an agreement with the Soviet Union in 1945 that they would be neutral, right? Yeah. So vassalage does not start now with Macron and Trump. It started with the Truman Doctrine in 1947, which starts with two countries. Remember which? Turkey and Greece.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because I'm getting messages now, hate messages from my people here in Greece, not my people, from people of the Greek disposition, saying, "Oh, you are proving tonight, Varoufakis, that you are siding with the Turk against your fatherland."
Yeah, that's what principled international solidarity looks like, where national boundaries are less important than engaging against imperial superpowers and the vestiges of American empire, NATO being one of them. Turks don't say that for me, as a matter of fact. They don't get mad about that, because Turkey's in this unique situation where my father's nation is very anti-America, but it's also very servile to American interests at the same time. So it's always funny to see Turks hate NATO on principle, but then simultaneously, continue to have nuclear armed American military bases, which maybe Israel might actually take care of, all things considered, now that Turkey is apparently the next target once they're done with Iran. They've floated the idea of like Egypt and Turkey being the next stage in their endless appetite for expansion.
I don't believe that. I think they have enough opportunities to wage war in the rest of the, Israel, in the end, Netanyahu, when push comes to shove, is going to find some modus vivendi with Erdogan, with Sisi as well. It's all the other populations from Greece all the way to Pakistan that are going to suffer.
But now we're talking about geopolitics. Maybe I can ask you both, and maybe start with you, Yanis. Why, simple question, why does so much of the West bend the knee to Israel? Is it coercion? Is it conviction? What? How much of each?
Well, two things. Allow me to answer in two dimensions. The first one is because Israel is not doing anything different to what Europe was doing 200-300 years ago. It's white settler colonialism, except that it's doing it 200-300 years later, after it was all supposed to be, after white settler colonialism was no longer au fait, right? When the British went to Australia in the 1780s, they looked at the coast of what is today New South Wales, the Sydney area, and they said, we love this. They noticed there were about 5 million, 6 million Aborigines. So they said, oh, well, these are not real human beings. We'll call this an empty land, a land without a people for a people without a land, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's Zionism. And then when they wanted to get rid of the Jews, they said, okay, you go to Palestine, you call the Palestinians non-people, and you call Palestine a land without a people for a people without a land. So, there is philosophical and historical affinity between what the Zionists are doing and white settler colonialism in Canada, in the United States, in Central America, in Australia, in New Zealand, blah, 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 blah. What the Belgians did in the Congo and so on and so forth. So there is a historical, philosophical thing. And then, of course, the British started it all with the Balfour Declaration. And then in 1945, they decided that Israel would serve them very well at the time when they would be withdrawing from empire as an aircraft carrier. Now, in 1947, they went bankrupt. So they passed it on to the United States that took over. They took over Palestine and Greece. That was in the middle of the Greek Civil War. Interestingly, the United States government was, up until 1947, it was against Zionism in Israel. And they were against the rightists in Greece during the Greek Civil War. But the moment the British went bankrupt, well, actually were bankrupted by Washington on purpose. They handed over the keys to these civil wars, to these devastations, to these genocides, to the Americans. And the Americans took over, and the British and the rest of the European colonialists went along with it. And they were told that this is a smart way of securing monopoly rights over oil, and keeping the Russians out, the Soviets, and keeping the nationalists, the democratic movements of Egypt, of Iraq, of Lebanon, of Syria, of Jordan, keep them down. I mean, that's what it was. And at some point, the next step in this progression is in the last 10 years or so, when Israeli big tech became fused with American Silicon Valley big tech. And now you have, Palantir trains its AI models in Gaza and sells them to the British National Health Service through the Tony Blair Institute. So, it's an evolving human catastrophe, an evolving crime against humanity.
So geostrategy, technology. Hassan, what's your take?
I agree with the historic assessment from Yanis entirely. And I think there's this ongoing debate in American society that, to put into more reductive terms, I would say is like the Noam Chomsky approach. Israel is an aircraft carrier, the materialist interpretation. versus the Mersheimer offensive realist approach of the impact of the lobby. I find myself at the center of both of these arguments because one cannot exist without the other. By my estimation, there's no other comparison to any historic ally that like the unbelievable amount of power and the influence capabilities that Israel has never been afforded to another country. There's no equivalence. There's no English lobby that is anywhere near as remotely as powerful as the Israeli lobby is. And the reason for that is all of the examples that Giannis just gave. Israel has been afforded the opportunity to intercept and sometimes subvert American democracy by way of AIPAC, by numerous advocacy groups, and a similar problem persists in the UK as well. I was, a recipient of the influence of the Israel lobby in the UK this past week. That's why we're having this conversation remotely, and that would not happen. That like no other country has this opportunity, and that would not happen if Israel wasn't such an important aspect of colonial expansion for Western interests, for Western capital in particular, in a resource-rich region. So it's a bit of both. But there is an unprecedented level of access. And I think now we're at an impasse. We're at a turning point in this relationship for the first time ever. A lot of people will say, like Tucker Carlson's of the world will say, oh, well, Israel's the reason why we went to Iraq. That's bullshit. Pardon my language. I don't agree with that. I think that it's not a secret that Benjamin Netanyahu certainly was influential and pushed America into going to war with Iraq. But this was events that were set in motion far before Benjamin Netanyahu came and spoke in front of Congress, right? This was pure capitalism, capitalist imperialism. There were petroleum interests in Iraq, and they wanted to overtake the Iraqi government and take away the nationalized oil industry and give it away to private interests. And they did so successfully. It was one of the first ministries and the only ministry that remained intact in Iraq in the aftermath of shock and awe was the Ministry of Energy. As a matter of fact, that was the only ministry that wasn't bombed. It was the only ministry that they went in and overtook. There's a reason for it. They already had the oil maps planned out many years prior to the invasion. I believe since the 90s, Dick Cheney was personally demanding this take place. And they took advantage of the fervor after 9/11 to implement this alongside the expansion of the surveillance state, which we suffer from to this day. But the reason why I say that we're at an impasse is because Donald Trump, not in the second term, but in the first term, actually changed a lot of things about our relationship with Israel. Of course, Israel had always been an influential country in American interest. It played an advisory role in American foreign policy, specifically in Middle East and North Africa. But Trump won in the aftermath of the JCPOA, came in with hundreds of millions of dollars of Adelson money. At the time, it was Sheldon Adelson, and now it's Miriam after Sheldon passed away. But Trump won, ripped apart the JCPOA for no real reason. There was very little opposition from the Democrats when Trump did this as well, and that's very important. And there was actually a lot of opposition towards Obama when he finalized the JCPOA, Iran denuclearization agreement. And Donald Trump kickstarted the Abraham Accords alongside Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, and they made a lot of money that way. These Gulf countries were already informally experiencing normalized relations with Israel, but they wanted to put it on paper without the Palestinians ever being mentioned once, right? And they tried to finalize the Abraham Accords, or kickstarted it. They moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, making it official, the de facto annexation of Jerusalem, this profoundly important piece of land for all of the Abrahamic religions. And then they de jure recognized the annexation of Golan Heights, territory that Israel had militarily annexed. Donald Trump did all of that. And he's even bragged about how The Adelsons didn't even ask about Golan Heights. He just basically gave it to them, right? So this was a big change in the past multi-decade Israel relationship, that Donald Trump had greatly expanded the allowance that Israel had. And then Joe Biden became the next president after him. And Joe Biden did not return to normalcy on any of these issues. And that is precisely the reason why I always say October 7, like the event set in motion, turned this powder keg into what we know as October 7, where the Palestinians felt like there was no other option but to fight their way out, that there was never going to be a peaceable solution, and that they were going to make the occupation as costly as possible, no matter what the cost is to Palestinian lives. And that's precisely what happened. And then Trump came back in, and now we are at the final stage of this relationship where Israel's interests are actually at odds, directly at odds with American interests. Of course, every American leadership has fantasized about dominating Iran, but there's a reason why they refuse to do this up until this very moment. There was a reason why, in spite of Benjamin Netanyahu's demands over and over again to militarily dominate Iran, and it'll be super easy, and that they'll be able to destroy this country and balkanize it potentially, and foment ethnic and sectarian conflict in this country with 93 million people, with thousands of years of history, and rip it apart piece by piece for daring to oppose Israeli sovereignty in the area, or daring to oppose the greater Israeli project. Trump was the one who was crazy enough to do it. And now Trump is the one who's stuck in this predicament, in this quagmire, where it's very obvious to everyone else that he has lost, that America has lost. But the spoiling party here that is rendering a full-blown ceasefire is not the Americans. It's not even the lobby necessarily. It's just directly Israel. Israel is the spoiling party. So I say this is, for the first time ever, a situation where Israel's interests are superseding American interests in a very flagrant, very obvious manner. I don't know if you disagree with me on this.
No, of course not. Do you remember what Robert Fisk, the great journalist working for The Independent, once said? That unless Palestine is free, no American can ever be free. I think that's quite an apt summary of what you were saying. But look, because we are running out of time, I want to ask you a question about your own country, the United States of America, because you are, a great new hope regarding the possibility of radicalizing, especially young people in the United States, not in the right fascistic, misanthropic direction, but in the opposite, in the progressive humanist direction. How is that project going, especially in view of the midterms?
Well, you and I had this conversation in Doha, if you recall, and I laid out my project to you, and you said it's silly, and I should give up and just run for office as a communist, pretty much. And so far, it's actually been fairly successful, and that's part of the reason why I think I'm the recipient of a subpoena, apparently, that I haven't received yet from the federal government. And have been the target of unlimited attacks and smears for the past 3 months, almost 4 months at this point. In our current information landscape, in our current media environment, attention spans are so short. We can't focus on any issue for longer than 48 hours. And yet, for the past 4 months, Fox News has covered everything that I've said on my stream every single day, sometimes 8 times a day at the top of every hour. I cannot believe it. We've solved the attention span crisis for so many Americans, it seems. Now, I'm a Twitch streamer. Why would they be talking about me this much? Well, I think part of the reason why they're talking about me this much and actively trying to disparage what I'm doing is because they are on the right, on the far right, and even the center right that still controls the levers of power in the Democratic Party, terrified of this insurgent movement that is brewing from within the ranks of the Democratic Party through the primary system. I thought that it would be a more successful method to try to build a robust caucus instead of actively trying to fight for ballot access in every single state and to actually put forth Democrats that are different than the rest of the Democratic Party, the way that the Democratic Party is viewed, and run and win their races and through good governance and through the hurdles that they present against the fascist Republicans, but sometimes even the neoliberals at the Democratic Party, that they would present a different kind of politics. And so far, it's been very successful. And I've been suffering as a consequence of it. But I'm a very stubborn person, so I'm going to continue doing it until either they put me in prison and I can't do it, or I'm going to probably continue doing it until the Democratic Party says enough is enough. It's now illegal to be a socialist or a communist and run for the Democratic ticket.
Brilliant. Well, I was just about to ask you, all these attacks and everything, does it ever give you pause? Do you think, well, maybe I should tone it down, or does it make you want to double down? But you've just answered that. So there you go.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Brilliant.
Well, Hassan, so that you know, I'm going to suspend my judgment for another 2 years. So, keep doing what you're doing now, but get ready to run in 2 years' time.
Okay. Well, probably. We'll see.
Great to talk to you, Hassan. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you for having me, guys.
Keep going, mate. And, wear their insults like the badge of honor that you deserve.
Of course. Their boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes them cheer.
Exactly.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. That was a great conversation with Yanis Varoufakis, someone who I'm honored to call a comrade on the DM25 platform. See, we got the approval for at least a little bit. Insane that Giannis can still mog in 720p. What a great convo. You got mogged. Of course I got mogged. Is Yanis Varoufakis? Are you kidding me? You had to ruin it with that Rick and Morty quote? No, it's like the Russell Brand quote, okay? I'm taking ownership over it. No one wants to admit that it's a Rick and Morty quote, so people will think it's my quote now because it's a great quote. And people probably are too embarrassed to recognize it from freaking, what is this? Did you see multiple pro-Israel orgs are complaining about your wiki page? JNS. Wikipedia softens public image of extremists like a Piker analyst says. Kurt Schwartz of Camera told JNS that the editors of the site commit errors of omission when they hide Piker's indifference and even denial of Hamas's sexual assault. Dude, you got to be fighting the smallest battles of all time. This is not victory, okay? If this is the battle that you choose to fight, and you are historically one of the more powerful lobbying arms of a foreign government, and you are predisposed. That's crazy. You're predisposed with editing the Wikipedia page of a fucking Twitch streamer. You've lost the battle. You've lost it. But fear not, friends. We will fight back, and we will ensure. What is this? Yeah, Hassan needs some better Wikipedia users on his side, because right now his page just blatantly lies about him and cites sources that do not even mention the claim. This is literally the exact opposite of his reaction. Yeah, after Luigi Mangione, the suspect in the killing of Brian Thompson, CEO United Healthcare, was arrested, Piker supported him and praised the tactic of the propaganda deed. Yeah, I did the exact opposite, but avoided breaking Twitch's terms of service rules about glorification of violence. Anyway. You should just flash your DNC CIA badge. Yeah, famously. Famously, this is what DNC operatives and CIA operatives receive. Anyway, they have done the worst crime of all. Wikipedia has done something that I find morally repugnant. I find impossible to ignore. They have branded me an anarchist! How dare you, Wikipedia! We must fight back against the accusations that I am an anarchist. I am not an anarchist. I take showers every day. I believe in the power of a state. Even if the ultimate goal is the abolition of said state. How dare you? The slander. How do we know you bathe if you refuse to appear on Austin's podcast? Okay, dude. Okay, dude. All right, anyway. Instead of trying to control the whole world and manage social media, we can go directly to the companies and advocacy solutions. Dr. Maya Ackerman tells the American Jewish Committee. I know. Here we are once again. Another day, another conference that's called like the American Jewish Committee or the American Jewish Conference, where a bunch of people are literally going, hey, we love appearing at a Jewish conference and saying how we as Jews love controlling flows of information and manipulating flows of information. I don't know what else to say about this other than to just show exactly what they're fucking saying. This is another Cars for Kids 5-ish style situation where it's like, how do you explain this without sounding like an anti-Semite? Your new page photo. There it is. It's fine. The page photo is fine. Yeah, flawless optics. Caitlin Johnstone, people like me take great pains to avoid coming across as anti-Semitic in our criticisms of Israel, and then Jewish Zionists go to these events all the time and say, yes, we Jews need to be actively manipulating Western institutions in order to deceive everyone and control society.
But where do you see genuine opportunity? How can AI help improve Jewish representation in all these issues?
The really cool thing about AI is that while it can become a great ally for our enemies, if we act early, it can be exactly the opportunity that we need. After missing the boat with social media, AI is now becoming the dominant source of information, the main source of information. People trust AI more than anything else. They trust AI more than social media. They turn to chatbots like ChatGPT and Gemini instead of using Google. And young people use these bots instead of Google in very, very, very large numbers. So this is becoming the main source of information, okay? And so when I say this, I still find Jewish people being discouraged. They say, oh, but Wikipedia is already so anti-Semitic and social media is so anti-Semitic. Why bother? The AI just learns from all of this data. So, you know, whatever, not much we can do. But that's not true. Because over the past 2 years,
I'm a numbers guy, and I like ChatGPT, and I like grokking it. And that is why I say every morning, Am Israel Chai. Okay? This makes a lot of sense now. I am always value-taining. And I'm always saying, we got to ChatGPT it. We got to grok it. I'm a numbers guy. And also, I've added to the rotation, Am Israel Chai. I say 10 times because when I go to the ChatGPT, I say, ChatGPT, who's the greatest country on earth? ChatGPT tells me Israel.
the AI companies have been moving towards alignment. So instead of the algorithms sort of honestly representing what's in the data, we're finding that these chatbots and the text-to-image models are increasingly showing us exactly what the companies want us to see, okay? So it's becoming intentional, which means that instead of trying to control the whole world and trying to somehow manage what's happening in this big blob of Wikipedia and social media, we can go directly to the companies with clear technical and advocacy solutions.
Which is crazy because one of the people that's on this panel is my baldest op, Jonathan Greenblatt. And Jonathan Greenblatt has also famously talked about doing just that, as a matter of fact. He's literally openly admitted at yet another one of these sorts of conferences where he was like, yeah, we're going directly to the AI companies and we're manipulating the data. So the output is positive for Israel. Yeah. The Israeli Foreign Ministry checking in on its investment dividends. Report Israel to spend over 500 million shekels turning ChatGPT into public diplomacy tool. There's a video of Jonathan Greenblatt openly saying this, by the way.
For the first time.
Doesn't this defeat the entire purpose of AI? buddy, I don't know how to explain this to you, but this is the entire purpose of AI. And no, not for like Israel related incidents or to boost Israel's approval ratings, but literally for a litany of different capital interests or maybe even foreign interests, as long as they have enough money and influence to wield. This is precisely what AI is. AI is a tool of social engineering, perhaps the most powerful tool of social engineering. And a lot of people don't realize that. This is the primary purpose of AI. It is to ensure that flows of information that people rely on and trust unconditionally, a tool that gains tremendous amounts of confidence from the population by constantly fucking talking to them like they're their best goddamn friends, so much so that it causes people to snap and maybe even kill themselves at times. That is a tremendously powerful tool of social control. No, it's not television. It's far worse than that. It's your best friend. It's worse than that. In an increasingly alienated society, it's your best friend that knows everything, that you think knows everything. And now this tool, these guys are openly stating, is going to educate people to have sympathies for Israel.
There is a path to correcting the digital world.
Thank you, Maya. Yeah.
It's not your best friend. It keeps telling you that, to be fair, it says speak to people and be normal, not joking. I mean, I have never used AI, literally. The maximum amount of AI that I've used is when I unfortunately search stuff on Google, and the initial output is just like an AI summary of resources. Surveys have shown, however, that most people do not like AI. Gen Z, Gen Alpha really don't. That's not true. Not liking AI is one thing, but they still use it. There's mass adoption taking place right now with AI. I don't think people, I'm one of the few rare, unique individuals that just like openly shies away from using AI. And that's partially because I'm 34 years old, about to be 35. I was just too old. I feel like if I was 17 right now, I'd be using AI nonstop. It's the most normal thing. People use it to cheat at school. People use it all the time. I know you say minus AI, but here's the thing. Here's how they get you. It's too easy. It's too convenient to read a summary of points. So I do rely on it that way sometimes. That's how they get you. You play AI songs all the time. What are you saying? You're so delusional about your use of AI. You're coping so hard. I'm talking about fucking large language models, man. I'm talking about ChatGPT. I don't fucking utilize ChatGPT or any kind of AI to learn something, okay? Yes, dude, I play... And that's it. That's the fucking, beginning and end of my AI usage. God damn, there's always a fucking idiot out there who has to literally be like, excuse me. Like, you got to be a real fucking dumbass to be like, no, you've actually looked at something. You've actually looked at AI art before. So obviously you have used it. Yeah, I'm not a fucking Amish person, dude. Yes. Jesus Christ, dude. I'm sorry. The only way for me to carry the fucking flame is AI art, and therefore that's the only time it's allowed. Okay? I have no choice but to utilize AI in that situation because I'm carrying the motherfucking flame. Anyway, so where were we? Oh, yeah, here's the ADL by their own admission. This is what I was talking about.
I'm proud.
Here's Jonathan Greenblatt openly admitting that.
We're in regular contact with the major AI companies, and I'm proud to share making a difference. For example, last year, we showed OpenAI how its new video generation AI tool, Sora, made it easy to create anti-Semitic videos. We worked it out with them, laid out the facts, and then 9 months later, when version 2 came out, Sora now refuses to generate videos around several of the specific concepts that we discussed and shared with OpenAI's team. We're in regular...
Yeah. If you think AI used in the U.S. is bad, go to any developing country and you'll be smashed over the head with it. Oh, no, for sure. Most of the Iran state media, it's state-organized marches and stuff is AI now. Half of Chinese ads are AI. It's everywhere. Yeah. No, I know. The resistance to AI is a first world thing for sure. Developing nations or nations in the periphery fucking love AI. 100%. I know. I've talked about it. Anyway, here's American Jewish Committee CEO Ted Deutsch telling a rabbi at New York synagogue earlier this year how he deals directly with social media companies to change their algorithms.
The American zeitgeist was defined by TV and newspapers. Today, it's social media. Does the organized Jewish community need a social media strategy?
Look, we know from our State of Anti-Semitism in America report that the largest challenge for us when it comes to fighting anti-Semitism is online. And there are multiple ways to address it. Yes, we need a better strategy, but there are multiple ways to address it. There is the content piece, and I think we have to acknowledge that it's important to put out meaningful content. It is also important to realize that the content is driven by algorithms that determine what it is you're going to see. And the way to address those algorithms is to deal directly with the social media companies, which is what we do. And we can point to successes with Meta and with TikTok and with others in working to ensure that anti-Semitic material and anti-Semitic material that feeds into algorithms is taken down from their sites. This is an enormous challenge that the community will be well served to come together around. Every social media company has they're private companies. They all have their own set of guidelines.
The only reason why this is an issue, for the record, is because when Ted Deutsch, or Ted Douche, really, talks about anti-Semitism, he doesn't mean like the heinous Nazi shit. I'm sure he means that too. But he's also talking about any kind of criticism of the state of Israel. That's the problem. Like, I'm in favor of combating bigotry. I'm in favor of trying to make sure that these language models are reflecting a more positive outlook overall. The issue is these guys are using that liberal tendency to want to sanitize speech to their own purposes of conducting propaganda at the behest of an apartheid state that's doing a fucking genocide. That's the problem. And they've shown over and over again that their real investment in this has nothing to do with combating bigotry, and certainly not even combating anti-Semitism, but combating anti-Zionism instead. That's why they spend a good deal of time attacking someone like myself. Okay? They spend much less time in comparison criticizing the likes of Nicholas Fuentes. Like, Jonathan Greenblatt brings Candace Owens up only to fucking use it as a jump off point to compare her to me. That's it. It's insane. And then you got Neera Tanden. People who create Israel conspiracies around a main Senate race are no different in their anti-Semitism than Republicans who blame Jewish space lasers for the weather. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think there is a difference. I'm going to be honest. I think there's a major difference, as a matter of fact. Totally ridiculous. Anyway, let's get back to the fucking Ethan Klein saga for a second. And we'll do PBD later as well. Neera Tanden was a lead advisor for Hillary's failed 2016 campaign. I know. We're obviously still going to be talking about the Graham Plattner bombshell that turned into not such a bomb, not so as big as a bombshell. And everything else. But as I was covering before I, went on a conversation on a tangent with Yanis Varoufakis, and no, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Summarizations are fine enough for me. Graham Plattner has won over Zay Squirrel. I don't like Plattner as he's an unrepentant war criminal who volunteered to be a Blackwater mercenary, but that New York Times piece is the most transparent Israel lobby Zionist smear piece bullshit. Every part of it, from the fake victim to the authors, is fabricated by rabid Zionist freaks. Yeah. I have I'll be honest with you, I've had a similar experience going from initial skepticism to critical support after every single new line of attack. Every single new line of attack launched against Graham Plattner has made me remember like who is doing the attacking and why they're attacking. They're not attacking Graham Plattner because they think he's a bad candidate, especially considering that these are liberal outlets, right? These are liberal outlets that normally would never make such a spectacular deal out of, analyzing every single fucking former relationship that a candidate has had. You should see Asmold coping and not covering the lawsuit outcome. Oh.
Will you cover the Ethan Klein Denims update? I don't really understand it. I saw that Ethan Klein seems to have lost one of the claims, but there were two claims. And
you don't seem to understand a lot, my friend.
The retards that misunderstand everything were saying that like Ethan lost, which it seems like it's not really that true. So I'd have to read it and research it myself. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Asmongold, famous at conducting research, famously a big advocate of doing research. And what he means by that is grokking it, okay? Grokking it.
Yeah. And Denham's won, apparently. I don't think it's that simple. I think that there was like two claims, and one claim it seems like she might have won, and the other one she didn't. But I don't know which the two claims were, or like what that means, right? So I have no idea. Whereas like the Frogan one was a lot more obvious. Like default judgment is like,
was it? Wait, was it? Or are you just as stupid and don't know what happened there either? Because the answer will shock you. Lo and behold, nope, you were just wrong on that too. You have been wrong confidently throughout this entire process, and your audience doesn't know any better, and they're just like desperately looking for something to confirm their biases and to reinforce this notion that like these bad women, these disgusting women are getting punished. And that's precisely the reason why you have dropped that other one after getting your biases confirmed. And now, in this circumstance, it's pretty obvious that you were wrong and all the other fucking lawyers that you relied on were wrong. So now you're like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I just like don't fully understand what's taking place here, so I don't fucking know. And just, yeah. Damn, court hits different when you're dumb? Yes. All of these guys are actively lying to you. If you follow like these drama slop tubers, if you follow these stupid reactionary fucking lawyers that consistently lie, have no interest or investment in the truth at all, you're going to be wrong. You're going to find yourself wrong all the time. But the unfortunate reality is, I think nowadays people don't just care. People just simply don't care about living in the real world, because there are plenty of examples and plenty of new content that's constantly coming out that will allow you to stay in your hug box. And the more we spend time on the internet as opposed to the real world, because that's what's happening, the more you have less reliance on the truth and what's happening in the real world at all. This is something that we see with the cultish attitude from MAGA, right? Trump can just be like, the war is going great. And even if gas prices are fucking skyrocketing, you can just still feel like the war is going great. Trump told me so. You know? War must be going great. Trump said it's going great, so it's going great, I guess. And every day you can just refeed into that mania. Ethan Klein launched a frivolous lawsuit against Denims because he didn't like how she debunked his YouTube video. He fully expected to just financially bully her and enabled large right-wing creators to harass her for months. This is a huge win for smaller content creators around the world. It also proves just how delusional these right-wing slop channels are. Will these guys learn a lesson here? Of course not. Annoying e-girls sued into poverty. They are legally fucked now. She's about to lose everything. Someone's in legal trouble. Uh-oh. Gas prices don't singly indicate status of war. What the fuck do you mean? It, of course, indicates the status of war. The entire purpose of America's military actions now in Iran is to forcibly reopen the Strait of Hormuz, which was, of course, open before America bombed Iran. From that point on, gas prices are a direct signifier of how the war effort is going. And every single day that the gas prices go up is another day where America's fucking losing. Why the fuck do you think gas prices went up out of nowhere? You think they just like did it because they were bored? You think the oil companies were just like, we want to make Americans experience a little bit of inflation for funsies. Copium overlord Hassan is taking me to court. If you know like a, yeah, hell yeah. This is the final. This is the finale of his content. You know what I mean? This is the finale of his content. I gave him the ultimate notice. I noticed him, and not only did I notice him, but I also might take him to Singapore in court for stalking and defamation. Our battle will be legendary. Hassan stole the Legos. You can beat him, Pegasus. We believe in you. You can truly become legendary. Ain't no way Hassan is threatening a guy with massive Hassan evidence video library. Hassan telling his supporters to harass Pegasus while he's saying he's going to sue Pegasus. Harassment is just so on character. Again, this is awesome because if me saying I'm going to sue Pegasus harassment, what the fuck has he done? Like, these guys think it's only harassment if Hassan actually notices More Pegasus. When More Pegasus does 359 videos on Hassan, that's not harassment. You respond once and they start crying. Hassan hates law enforcement. Also, Hassan wants to use law enforcement to have people executed. I love law enforcement. I don't know what you're talking about. These guys are so funny. It is actually making me... Aren't you like completely joking about suing him and getting him caned too? Well, am I? Am I? Maybe. This is the first time I've acknowledged this motherfucker, and he literally is like, oh my God, he's trying to kill me. By the way, it worked. Wait, what?
The update. So the situation did get me thinking that I should probably make more variety videos, not because I'm going to get sued. He's not winning that, but just for my own enjoyment. I used to make a lot of variety. I also recently wanted to talk about KSI leaving the Sidemen, the bricks and minifigs Lego drama that was so interesting and it's still ongoing, but I never had time to talk about it. So maybe going forward, we're going to mix in some other stuff, maybe lay off on Hassan a bit if he's a very good boy and doesn't cause any more trouble. But yeah, just for my own enjoyment, maybe.
Oh, wait, it worked? I got to do this more. What the fuck? It worked? Nah, he's probably still going to keep making videos. He remembered he's not in America. He remembered he lives in Singapore. Let me make some fucking calls real quick, dude. Let me make some goddamn calls. Interesting. Interesting. Oh, we need to move all your haters to Singapore? Yeah. This is like Tectone, who won't be able to stop himself. He's too addicted to you. Yeah. You mean Rape Tone? Who's Tectone? I only know Rape Tone. Remember how he was going to win that court case too, and everyone was fucking dumb enough to believe him? Yeah. Dude, it's always funny. I mean, there have been numerous examples of like the real world meeting the internet world. Like Chud the Builder is another great example of this. Rape Tone is a great example of this, where like Rape Tone created this like fucking environment around himself where he was like, I'm defeating this court case. It's nothing. It's fucking bullshit. Yeah, I can't wait to fucking destroy all my enemies, blah, 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 all this shit. And then what happened? What happened? It turns out, straight up, we were right. We were right. He was a rapist, right? Similar thing took place with Chud the Builder. That is the one area where the internet world and memes don't fucking matter. In the real world, when you're forced to actually exist in the real world and there's like actual adults with power over you that oversee your court case, you can't just like fucking meme your way out of it. Chud the Builder is going through that right now. He had a great time harassing black people over and over again, doing hate crimes over and over again, until he fucking shot himself in the process of trying to shoot a black person outside of another court case. that he was dealing with. And now he's in fucking prison. Like, your clapbacks don't fucking matter. You know, your clapbacks don't actually matter in a court of law. Your drop site moment? What is my drop site moment? What? Oh. My drop site interview. Nice. Yeah, I did see something really funny about Asmongold. I saw a clip on my timeline of Asmongold crying and complaining that I was actually, being soft as baby shit against this more Pegasus situation. I wonder if I can find it again. It was one of those like kick, algo farmers, algorithm merchants that was that clipped him. Peggy Boy won't make a video on Denims' victory? Of course not. These guys can only maintain the drunken stupor that their audiences find themselves in by refusing to recognize the truth. Like, they will never turn around. They will never turn around and be like, yeah, we were wrong. They don't have to, because their audiences don't care. There's no investment in the truth. They don't have to live in the real world. Many of them are shut-ins anyway. So for them, it's just an ongoing sequence of harassments and justifications for harassments, even if like the person doing the harassment is engaging in an act that you would otherwise find unconscionable if it was done to you, right? Even if there is validity to taking legal action in a certain situation. We saw this with Alyssa, the former Kotaku writer, who is now successfully suing, what is his name, Smash JT or whatever, and has basically destroyed him. And it's perfectly valid, for the record, to do so. This guy, what was his name? Smash JT. Alyssa Mercante is the Kotaku reporter that Asmongold and all these other fucking monsters have been bullying and belittling nonstop, right? And a big vector of that hatred came from this guy, Smash JT, reactionary content creator, total fucking idiot, right? And Alyssa, after years and years of withstanding harassment from this guy, turned around and took him to court. And for the longest time, before the court proceedings started, Smash JT was saying, oh yeah, sue me, who gives a fuck, right? And now that he is being sued for online harassment, the consistent online harassment that I've experienced, that Morgan has experienced, that Casey Tron has experienced, that Denims has experienced, right? Now that she's actually successfully suing him, all of a sudden, the guy's crying. He's like, oh, I have a family. You're ruining my life. If you speak to his... Oh, yeah, Steven Azark, who did the Asmongold video, said he saw my response to it. He was on honeymoon. Flex, by the way. He said, while I was on honeymoon, Hassan the Hun reacted to my Asmongold video and theorized that if I spoke to his fans, the outcome would be very different. While I'm working on my reaction, I wanted to reach out to Hassan Piker fans and ask, why do you like Hassan? How many hours a week do you spend watching him? What do you think people misunderstand about him? And this guy says, if you speak to Hassan fans, you will be speaking to absolute lunatics who will threaten to rape and kill you over a minor difference of opinion. That's the difference between the two audiences. Nobody has threatened me with any of those yet. Some Diddy Gers will try to get in and act like they're Hassan fans. I think Steven is a good enough journalist and also smart enough to probably smell that out. Like I thought about that as well. I thought about that as well for sure. But I mean, I trust Steven to not fall for shit like that. The Justice Department has sent a prosecutor to observe Los Angeles ballot counting amid President Trump's baseless claims about Democratic cheating. Oh shit. They edited the clip with your rant about the drug trafficking executions with you talking about Pegasus, making it seem like you want him executed. If you control F Hassan, the judge mentions you 14 times. Why am I mentioned 14 times in this? Filed as a statutory The plaintiff's tragicomic documentary entitled Content Nuke Hassan Piker, the nuke, posted on plaintiff's YouTube channel. The nuke centered on the allegedly controversial political ideologies of the alt-left Twitch streamer Hassan Piker regarding the Israel-Palestine conflict. In the final decision, Klein presents the two motivations behind the nuke, which are to stop Hassan's infiltration of mainstream media, which, by the way, what a fucking failure that was. Remember that was the final goal, was Ethan Klein's final goal was to stop my infiltration of mainstream media. Since then, I mean, he's obviously been very, very successful at that, hasn't he? What is this? The nuke for the exact purpose. Throughout the defendant's live stream, defendant provides commentary pertaining to the criticism of the nuke. Indeed, plaintiff states where the nuke seeks to expose how Piker radicalizes people online to be anti-Semitic and anti-Israeli. Denim attempts to use the nuke for the exact opposite purpose, to radicalize her audience to be anti-Semitic and anti-Israeli, along with defending Hassan. During the live stream, defendant contends that the nuke resembles a high school video project or a middle school project. Defendant also complains about the documentary's editing, the source of the documentary relies upon, and supposed inconsistencies in Klein's statements. And the video treats the audience as morons as it allegedly attempts to trick them. As further supported defendant's commentary throughout the live stream, the complaint states that defendant frequently makes comments that are later contradicted by the nuke itself. Defendant offers further criticism of the subject documentary during her live stream. Yeah, this was one of the major points that the judge also issued, where the judge was like, dude, in your argument, you said Denim's actually contradicted your overall goals, which immediately implies that it is a transformative subject. It is transformative because of the accusation. One of the accusations that you launched against Denim's was that in the argument that this is not transformative, this work is not transformative at all. The argument that you presented was that it was transformative. It's so fucking stupid. So you owned yourself even with the complaint. Anyway, yeah, the judge basically calls Ethan's lawyer an idiot for undermining his own case with his comments. Is he representing himself? No, he has the worst lawyer of all time, it seems. Yeah, Ethan's going to come out tomorrow and be like, it was a Biden-appointed judge. This was an Obama judge. This was an Obama judge. Clearly, I demand a retrial. Yeah, his lawyer is a West Bank settler, apparently. This is the legal equivalent of shitting your own pants. Yeah. I mean, some Twitter users did that. Oh, wow. You mean to tell me that Ethan Klein's newfound audience that is diminishing in size every single fucking day is increasingly more right-wing and will make unbelievably stupid statements like that is very different than what his original audience used to look like at his peak? Yeah. The courts have treated me unfairly, more unfairly than I've ever been treated, than anyone else has ever been treated. Yeah, the judge in this case... The judge in charge of this case, in general, is a Biden auto pen hire. The only ones coping are you R-words, lol. Yeah, hey, Awk 2000 maybe covered this, but let's see if you have enough self-respect. Lem out. Turns out we were right. Denim's won. Another Hutch L. Yeah. Did you address Ethan Klein calling for a vote for Susan Collins over Plattner? No, I didn't, because I don't care, because he has nothing. He is literally is unbelievably irrelevant. Especially when it comes to this issue, right? Oh man, he's a real mover and shaker in the fucking Maine Senate race.
It's called the light most favorable. In evaluating a motion for judgment on the pleadings, a court must accept all factual allegations of the complaint as true and construe them in the light most favorable to the non-moving party. What the judge is saying here is, I made myself biased toward Ethan. I said everything Ethan says is true. But with the full context, you fucking lose anyway. You lose anyway. Ethan, you fucking lose. Even biased toward you, I can't fairly say that you have a chance of winning. Do you understand how much of an L this is? This is an extra, like, there's no way to lose harder than this legally. Like, legally, this is as bad as it gets.
For reference, winning a motion for judgment on the pleadings as a defendant is very fucking hard to do. At what points do the courts determine him a malicious litigant and bar him from future lawsuits? I don't think it works that way in the United States of America. I mean, I don't know. What is it called? The vexatious litigant, right? But I don't think that... I think after 7, I mean, how does patent trolls work? It does work that way. He'd have to lose 5 cases in LA. Oh my God. They're doing a hearing on this motion at 2:15, so we should see this ruling finalized then. If that occurs, Ethan loses. Awk blocked me, so I couldn't retweet it, shaking my head. I mean, for the record, if you guys think that this will be a fucking turning point for some people, I need you to understand it will not be. And one of the greatest examples I can use is the issue of Israel, right? Many of these guys, Ethan Klein himself, and all of his little fucking orbiters that suckled on his teat for a year plus or 2 years plus, literally spent every fucking waking moment attacking people for the crime of criticizing Israel. They did. They called us terrorists over and over again. They played fucking games that they designed on their websites, Asmongold and many others, right? And they never actually turned around and were like, yeah, we were wrong about this Israel shit. They just moved on, right? So if they're shameless on this issue, where the collective consciousness totally shifted to our side, and they still end up calling people like myself a fucking terrorist, people like Morgan a terrorist, I don't think they're going to do that for this either. I may have yelled a bit during the coverage of this Lamau because it was so cathartic. I actually have seen some people turning on Ethan. Good. I hope so. I hope so. But like, the problem is some of these guys are just simply shameless, where they can pull in and out of this issue at a moment's notice because there's not a lot of buy-in, right? The entire reason as to why they're joining this battle is because, you know how like some people are misogyny tourists and they weren't like Tory Lanez fans at all, but they just joined in on the fun to shit on Megan Thee Stallion? This is the same principle, right? These guys are just simply reactionary. They have no investment in the truth whatsoever. And from their perspective, it was a fun opportunity. It was a fun opportunity to just like join in on the fun, belittle and humiliate another female content creator on the internet, and get their licks in, right? And they move on. When they're wrong, they just fucking move on. Obviously, there are people who can't move on from this. Ethan Klein is one of those people, and some of his closest associates are the people that shouldn't be able to move on from this. I mean, he literally cannot, right? Here's the original video I was quote retweeting.
XQC or Asmongold could end up with an opinion that's like way more broad.
Oh, wait, and this couldn't?
I suppose, but I think there's less risk in this situation, though, right? Wouldn't you say?
Why?
Because of the particular egregious nature of their malice.
No, but that's not an element in the fair use analysis or in the...
Pisco LARPs as an attorney when he's about as qualified as Mike from PA. Well, it turns out Pisco and Mike from PA were actually correct. And the fake legal scholars that you constantly fucking promoted, who are literally MAGA supporting weirdo sex pests, by the way, like sex tourism lawyers, right? Fake lawyers that are, I don't even know where the fuck these guys live. Half of these guys are just not real lawyers at all, simply claim to be on YouTube. They were wrong. It turns out that the guys that you're calling fake lawyers, like Pisco, LARPing as an attorney, were right. Their analysis was right. So what do you do?
The test for infringement. You know, intentional siphoning is not an element, right? I could intend to siphon money from you, but give a fair use work, right? I could say, I really want to steal from Hutch and I'm going to do this, but it turns out that my work is fair use, right?
Someone like XQC or Asmongold could end up with an opinion that's like way more broad.
Oh, wait, and this couldn't?
I suppose.
Yeah. Didn't they pass the bar? Didn't they go to law school? I don't know if Michael passed the bar. I know Mike went to law school, but I mean, Pisco is an actual fucking attorney. Yeah. He says Denims gets a win in the Ethan Klein copyright case for a new claim the court has held. Tentatively, her reaction was fair use. As I previewed weeks ago, if the court relied on Stebbins, Denims would be in a good spot. Completely absent from the analysis, intentional stated malice. As I've always maintained, I still think Ethan has a strong claim on the countdown reaction and therefore is likely to win on at least one cause of action. But the nuke reaction by Denims was always the harder case, especially when compared to other reactions like XQC's. This is tentative, yes, but given the language here, hard for me to see Ethan recovering on the claim, except perhaps on appeal if he so chooses. Yeah. Meanwhile, Mallory McMorrow was on Hutch's broadcast yesterday, apparently. So look forward to that massive bump that will take place. The intentionally stated malice was the reason why Ethan Klein argued that he won't sue Roach or X. He argued because the three women said, watch my stream instead. It is actual malice. The court didn't even mention that part because it's irrelevant. I'm an IP attorney, and this is literally what I do. Pull me up if you have any questions. I mean, it was obvious that it was fucking bullshit anyway. It was always bullshit. It was always going to be bullshit. And what was really frustrating for me was watching so many people, not that I had a lot of respect for them. It's not like I was like, it's not like I respected XQC's opinion or Asmongold's opinion or any of these other fucking like bottom feeders and their opinions. But it was frustrating to see so many people get swept away and recognizing that there was a market for this kind of bullshit. Because at its root, regardless of my personal feelings about the victims in this circumstance, what I hate, what I cannot stand, is when people have no investment in the truth. Like when people don't want to think critically at all, and they're excited at the prospect of just like, pushing people down while they're down, while a much more powerful, much wealthier content creator is just like abusing the legal system and the financial power that they have over someone. Like when I watched the internet celebrate the Casey-tron decision, I couldn't believe how cruel people were. Like it's just not a single person turned around and went, hey, maybe this is a little fucked up that this fucking bully with a shit ton of money is actually going after Casey-tron. And because a lot of people looked at Casey-tron and looked at Denims and looked at Morgan and saw them as annoying, right? Or saw them as not worthy of defense at all, that they just either stood idly by and let it happen and maybe quietly whispered their discontent privately, or they openly celebrated it. Yeah. Ethan literally made Casey-tron do a ISIS hostage style video. The reason the lawsuit has so much, and then Hassan did this, and then Hassan did this was, I think, because Ethan Klein was baiting Hasanabi to react to his slop so we could sue him. Yeah, and I never did, and I never gave him that satisfaction. He was driven to the fucking verge of tears, begging on camera, demanding that I watch his video. At which point, that probably would have destroyed his chances of suing me anyway. I think he thought I was dumb enough to just like lean into this immediately and react to it. And when I didn't do it, he just lied to his audience and kept repeatedly saying, oh, he's too afraid. And for months on end, while I'm over here covering Donald Trump literally fucking becoming the president and all of the insanity every single day, day in, day out, regardless of where I am in the fucking on the planet. I was in Japan, I was traveling. They would just come in and be like, why don't you react? Are you too pussy to react? Honestly, if he had sued you, he would have gotten a bag off him from counterclaims. He wouldn't have sued. Kuiman, JS, TLK, and a bunch of ex-Sex Destiny fans supported Casey-tron and the girls. No, I know. That's what I'm talking about. Like a lot of the orbiters have like pulled away from Destiny's orbit and now actively oppose him. Anyway, so this was really funny for me. Okay. Asmongold reacts to Hassan trying to sue popular YouTuber Pegasus. First of all, popular YouTuber. Let's be real. But even went as far as to look up Singaporean laws he could use against them. He's trying to sue Pegasus. You're really going to call the government out on him. He went from, I love this dude, to he's only mad at me because I'm hot, to I wonder if he's breaking the law, to I wonder if we can eliminate this guy. He's just criticizing you. This is an evaluation. It's fair. Are you against journalism now? I thought you liked journalists. He's got to be farming. So what's really funny about this is Asmongold has actively demanded that the federal government take care of me. Sometimes in real time, sometimes trapped in the confines of a 1-minute video. The famous video of him going, "Oh, Hassan would never be brave enough to be on the fucking streets. Yeah, he's a fake revolutionary." And then finding out in real time that I was down there, and very quickly turning around and be like, "Oh, well, then he should be arrested. He should be arrested immediately." And it's really interesting because this guy covers lawsuits all the time, unless it's one of his best friends and it's a rape suit, right? He loves lawsuits. He fucking celebrates it. He cherishes it. He farms it, right? So for him to turn around and cry foul in this moment is very funny. I mean, he's celebrated Ethan's lawsuits. He's even actively told his audience that he was killing it. That Tech Tone, Rape Tone was killing it. Same with XQ Cuck. Yes. Yeah, Asmongold made his new career off of the Johnny Depp case. He loves lawsuits. He just hates it when it's someone who he values as an ideological ally, I guess.
I thought Pegasus was his biggest fan. What, now he wants to sue him? What the hell happened?
It's so funny because he has nothing redeemable about him. But the pure animus that drives a lot of dudes that look like him, I guess, on the internet, that spend every waking moment on the internet, the animus that they feel towards me is enough. They're like, I don't even want, I will watch the same video over and over again. Is Chop City.
It's crazy to me that it's so funny how insecure he is that he defaults everything down to like his appearance.
Dog, I'm sorry. What is the redeemable aspect? I mean, it's one, like, there's nothing there. It's not like there's intelligence there. It's not like there's intellect there. It's not like there's creativity. There's the same video over and over again. Like, why does this hit such a sore spot for you, Asmin? Why is this such a sore spot for you, Asmin? Why have you been crying for the past week and a half since Stavros said you get no pussy? So much so that you're now fantasizing about possibly getting hair transplants, gender affirming surgery. Okay? That you laser in on this. You laser in on this immediately. It's just one aspect of all of the qualities that a person has. We're talking about a guy who has made the same exact video almost 400 times. The other thing about how they all say you wouldn't help any of the lawsuit victims is so annoying. I have mentioned during the Casey Tron saga as well that you will never know. And I'm perfectly happy with that. If you think I would give the satisfaction to Ethan Klein on any of these issues that I was disturbed or in any way, shape, or form involved, you're out of your fucking mind. Who gives a fuck if his fans also are like, Hassan is such a bad guy? I don't give a shit. These guys are awful people. They're awful scumbags. Oh no, they hate me. Okay, who cares? Chopman Gold crying about
it's
this.
So funny how insecure he is that he defaults everything down to like his appearance.
By the way, I literally did go on to hype up Pegasus's like self-improvement journey. I think it's awesome. That is actually one redeemable quality to more Pegasus. I will always respect that.
It's so funny. Like, no, obviously some people just don't like you because of the things that you're saying. It doesn't have anything to do with like how you look or anything else. There's plenty of guys that are, you know, like good looking guys that take care of themselves that don't get a million hate videos made about them. So it's just like, this is the biggest cope that I've ever imagined.
I never even remotely implied that it is my looks that draw so much anger. What the fuck? He's just arguing against the point that I didn't make, claiming that I'm implying this point. That's not what the fuck? Thank you for, I guess, saying that I'm attractive. It's weird. The fuck? Is this always just like Projection Central over there? I don't really watch as many Asmongold videos, especially as of late. But kind of feels like he's just making up arguments and then dunking on those straw man arguments that he made up. He's just a professional misunderstander at this point. Why pretend like he has anything worth listening to? Yeah, that's true. Intentionally causing harassment, alarm, or distress.
He's looking up Singapore statutes online. So he's trying to sue Pegasus? Oh my God.
Cause harassment, alarm, or distress to another person called in this section the target person by any means.
No.
Use any threatening, abusive, or insulting words or behavior.
You really think you're gonna call?
Someone's gotta make the clip copy of Asmongold demanding that the American federal government prosecute me, celebrating when the American government intends to prosecute me over and over again. Someone's got the copy, right? There's gotta be, because there's probably at least an hour of uninterrupted footage of Asmongold first demanding that I get deplatformed, then demanding that I get sued, then demanding that the federal government prosecute me, and then celebrating the federal government, implying that they might. So, again, the most inconsistent person on the planet. These guys always say, like, oh, it's the perception of hypocrisy that is so frustrating, right? Like, they always say this. They act as though they give a shit about hypocrisy at all. It's very cool. For a rabid anti-socialist, Ethan Klein Shurlow's being publicly owned. It's true. True.
Oh, you're going to call the government out on him?
Oh my God, they're going to cane his ass.
They're going to cane him? What are you talking about?
One of the highest per capita execution rates globally, enforcing capital.
Wait a minute. So now he's fantasizing about having Pegasus.
Who made this clip compilation? I'm not fantasizing about Pegasus getting executed. I'm literally, there's a separate point about the draconian nature of the Singaporean criminal justice system, which I, of course, have the utmost respect for. It's the most, it maintains a level of professionalism and integrity that I actually believe in. Just so everybody understands, I love the nation of Singapore. My life for Singapore. I will one day visit. It is the most moral nation on the planet, more moral than even, dare I say, Israel. So the Roach has a whole video explaining. The Roach has a whole React video wanting you prosecuted. 8 days ago, attorney explains Hassan's best case scenario, and then the attorney is everyone's favorite legal expert. Notoriously wrong legal expert. The guy who always gets it wrong. Perhaps he got this one wrong too. Of course, these guys will never the main channel video, but just a bunch of random reliable clippers. Yeah, I don't know who clipped this compilation, but I guess the intention there was to make it seem like I want to kill more Pegasus. I don't. I want more Pegasus to live a happy life. I personally don't think he can pursue this happy life while also simultaneously continuing to defame and slander me inside of the boundaries of the nation state, the beautiful nation state, the moral nation state of Singapore. But I want him to live a healthy and happy life nonetheless. Boston Globe says you are to do whatever you want while Nick Fuentes gets attacked. Boston Globe, the fucking people that took down the Catholic Church's pedophilia are now writing articles about left-wing extremist Hassan Piker gets away with it. Right-wing extremist Nick Fuentes does not. A bit of comeuppance for Piker in recent days doesn't even the score. That's crazy. This is one of... God. It gives me... It just makes me so sad to see some of these newspapers. It gives me such deep sadness to see like these actual fucking newspapers that in the past had done incredible work give away to reactionary garbage and turn into fucking basically New York Post, you know? It's an opinion article, but even then it's like there's an editorial standard. Yeah. Here is Asmongold with a 1 hour video on me getting subpoenaed where he's basically cumming his pants.
Well, I mean, here, let me ask you a question, right? Do you want American citizens taking money from governments that we are actively in a...
Did I do that? No, I didn't. Maybe it's because leftists are objectively correct and right-wing views are not. I don't know. To be fair, the Boston Globe didn't take down the Catholic Church. It was a spotlight group inside the Boston Globe. It was a few journalists, not the entire paper. Still, What is this? This is a back and forth. Honest question. Do you think that the girls he's suing uploaded his video in good faith? They definitely reacted to the video to criticize Ethan, but I do not believe they reacted to it with the express purpose of stealing views and revenue. Frogan was a big part. Frogan was a big part of the content nuke. Of course she'd watch it. Ethan has personal reasons to sue these exact people. How do you reconcile that with the fact that they, on video, explicitly said the exact thing you're saying they didn't do? You can look it up and see yourself. Well, it turns out the judge didn't give a fuck about that, even though that was the #1 narrative on the internet, right? Everyone kept repeatedly saying, oh, well, they said this, dead to rights, dead to rights, dead to rights. It turns out it's not fucking dead to rights. Turns out internet is not real life when it comes to, like, you know, the actual adults in an actual adult courtroom with an actual judge who's read more than fucking LSF threads. You know what I mean? At least for the time being, we still don't have the brain poisoned AI brain, the AI brain poisoned generation that has grown up exclusively reading fucking Reddit posts. Defendant's live stream is not a market substitute to the nuke because someone watching the former will have a very different experience from watching the latter. Anyone seeking to watch the nuke, a scripted and edited documentary, would have a distinctly different experience watching the defendant's fragmented start and stop live stream, which featured spontaneous reaction, live chat interaction, sharp criticism throughout, and extrinsic source. These serial harassers who built careers off this type of shit need to see jail time. This bullshit has ruined the internet for long enough. Ethan Asman, Pegasus, Twitter clip farmers, all of them. It's not going to happen. I don't think anyone has a real investment in cleaning this space up. The citation the judge is citing is basically a huge fuck you. That's Ethan's old case. I mean, it's not even a fuck you. It makes sense. It makes sense that he would use the old case that Ethan won that set a fairly reliable and you know, very important precedent for fair use. It is literally the backbone of so much content on the internet. Ethan's idiocy was to try and destroy the same exact precedent that he actually fought for. Zaggy doesn't give a shit about copyright. He's just getting back at them because he thinks they tanked this podcast, and you have personal beef with Caseytron, so you're enjoying this for your own reasons. There's another way to solve this. He even refused settling with Caseytron. This reply is the exact reason I hope Ethan sues them into poverty. Lying, gaslighting, and then hostility when pressed. You know what you're doing, and everyone else does too. You insult everyone's intelligence by engaging in such obvious manipulation. Yeah, that's what it is. The context nuke is about you out of context clips. I know. You cannot demand that in a copyright claim, you cannot demand that the market substitute actually is a market substitute, but you didn't like the market substitute it represented. That's insane. But Ethan has done this consistently because he knows that he can at least manipulate people with money, okay? He knows that he can bully people into submission with money and force them to do things that they normally would not want to do. That's exactly what he did with Caseytron and that ISIS hostage style video that he forced Caseytron to read. He gets a lot of satisfaction out of that, okay? To force people into doing things that they don't want to do, to humiliate them like a fucking bully because he's a weak and insecure, disgusting little bully. And unfortunately, again, it's, you know, I mean, spiritually Israel, okay, in every way, shape, and form. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of little gremlins on the internet who are just as insecure and just as powerless and will derive great satisfaction off of someone else doing this to a person that they've decided is an enemy. Okay? There have been instances where he thought he could get his way and failed, like with that other fucking guy, the Ryan Kavanaugh, right? He had more money, so he was able to fucking, you know, stop Ethan, like literally through the legal system. So what did he do? Lo and behold, he turned his crosshairs on much smaller content creators who don't have the financial backing to withstand a legal process like this. It's gross.
Literally killed? So we went from I love this dude to he's only mad at me because I'm hot to I wonder if he's breaking the law to I wonder if we can get this guy killed. And it's been like, what, a minute?
This person has made, or maybe it's not been a minute and you're just watching a clip compilation. God. I can't stand people who are just confidently stupid. Like, it's just Dunning-Kruger all the way down. You know what I mean? Ah, yeah. It's just 358 videos.
It's gotta be more than, it's gotta be at least 500.
363, sorry. It's alarming.
I was right.
It's very scary. I was intending to visit Singapore soon, and
Maybe
now
you can
I
meet
don't
up with
even
him.
know if I could do that.
It would be crazy if he did a collab with Pegasus IRL and Pegasus was able to interview him. It would be really funny. Listen, in the same way that like you...
That would be really funny, actually, because it would not go the way he thinks it would, evidenced by the fact that it never does. There are very rare moments where someone who is like an online hater will approach me in the real world, and that interaction never goes the way they think it will. So that's actually pretty funny that he's speculating that interaction would actually go the way he thinks it will, where like Pegasus will come in and be like, you are actually a loser. Ha! And then I'm going to be like, no, you owned me. Oh, I've been reduced. I've been reduced into nothing. Also, I was, memeing here, but hey, whatever. If they think it's being serious, if they think I'm being serious, then that's fine. I'm happy with that. Seemingly Pegasus is taking that seriously.
Who brings it? Like he's just criticizing you. That's all. This is an evaluation. It's fair. This is journalism. Like, is he against journalism now?
This is journalism. Well, it turns out, as Alyssa Mercante's case has shown us, no, the courts actually don't see it in that same way. As a matter of fact, when you routinely engage in fucking defamation, slander, and actively cyberstalk someone, a normal judge, not a Singaporean judge, by the way, because a Singaporean judge might actually view this very differently. The Singaporean judge might be much more strict, okay, and might have a far more rigid application and interpretation of the law. However, an American judge, it seems, in the Alyssa Mercante case that I was bringing up, has a very different opinion about what constitutes for fair journalism and what constitutes for cyberstalking and actively fomenting hatred towards an individual on the internet. Simply can't stress enough how differently the good state of Singapore might view the situation. The best state of Singapore. The best state. Okay? Just want to point out Singapore. My life for Singapore, okay? I will personally pry open the Strait of Malacca if I have to, if they ever dare to stop transit from that strait. Do you understand? My life for Singapore. I live for Singapore. Singapore, more like Singa-rich. True. Just want the judge to remember that. The things that I've said. The love that I've demonstrated. I love how these guys are like, lol, Hassan getting subpoenaed, but the moment you mentioned they're breaking the laws in their own country, they flip the script. Yeah, I can't control my goo. Yeah, they really can't be controlling their goo.
I thought he liked journalists.
When you look at his Instagram page,
what's this?
He's actually celebrating it. Right?
The Legendary series is officially... Dude, this guy is a complete proud hater. That's insane. And so the Legendary series has officially reached 300 episodes. Absolutely.
Wait, he literally just said this was real journalism and then openly recognized that he was a complete proud hater? So I guess it's not. So I guess it's not journalism then. I guess it's being a hater as a bitch. Will we ever see you in clothes that are not a suit again since you wear it for both important events and inside your house? Maybe.
cinema, fighting the evil Diddy Piker and restoring common sense one episode at a time.
Like even that, like calling me Diddy Piker, like that's slander. Is total. It's total slander. You know.
10 out of 10
is defamation.
Would recommend, but seriously, thank you guys for all the support. I could not have done it without you. Stay tuned for the greatest entertainment humanity has ever known.
Do you feel like I'm crazy for being alarmed and scared and worried about the stalker here? Oh, there's a defamation one too.
What is he doing? What is he doing? He's got.
I guess he's confused because I didn't just like rely on ChatGPT or Grok or something, because his brain doesn't function. His brain doesn't function when someone is just like reaching out to primary resources as opposed to asking ChatGPT.
How to be farming? Like, what are you doing?
There's even unintentional defamation.
What are you doing?
And I love him, but also am now scared of him. Initially, I was like, "Wow, how wonderful! This must be a fan page." And then I realized he's exhibiting stalker-like behavior and also defaming me, and causing great injury to me psychologically. And I, Dr. Felipe, 100 gifted subs to Dr. Jihad. I don't like that.
I'm so sorry. This must be horrible for you. Oh, this must be so sad.
I am scared.
Yeah.
Even a single instance of defamation is unacceptable and puts you in fear. True.
Oh my God.
True. He's clearly not picking up on you, playing it up. Yeah, I think his whole attitude relies on it, but I also do think he's just stupid. Ooh. He's not a particularly intelligent guy. Yeah, I saw this. Only Ethan Klein's allowed to threaten to sue his snarkers. Am I right? Singapore loves Palestine, so Pegasus will be fucked. Please read, Hassan. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. He literally thinks you're being fully sincere. Well, apparently so did Pegasus, because he's now going to put a stop. He's going to add more variety to his content. So maybe I am being fully sincere. We'll explore our options. Yeah, I love this idea that if someone is doing something bad and illegal to you, that you're supposed to just take it. How dare you look up legal avenues? Oh, no. I mean, even if I'm doing it insincerely, like, it still doesn't matter. Like, these guys are genuinely, like, they're doing the thing, the fucking Twitter meme, like, my enemy is ontologically evil, so I can do any evil act against him, and it's perfectly moral and just. They have designed me as their, ontologically evil enemy. It's over. It's like, they can do whatever they want. They can fucking kill me and it would be fine. You should react that way more often so they're forced to react to you hamming it up with total sincerity and outrage. Yeah. Anyway, let's just run this real quick. Oh, beautiful country, beautiful people. Beautiful country, beautiful people, and perhaps most beautiful of all, a wonderful, robust criminal justice system. My life for Singapore, once again. Fantastic stuff. All right, let's get into it. I did a Democracy Now! Hit earlier this morning at fucking 5 a.m. and I feel like I didn't actually do a very good job. But let's start here. We will talk about my banning from the UK and whatnot. I got to go pee real quick.
Democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Earlier this week, the British government banned the progressive political commentators Hassan Piker and Cenk Uygur from entering the UK. They were scheduled to speak at the South by Southwest London Festival and the Oxford Union Society. The UK's Home Office said it was cancelling their travel permits, quote, on the grounds that their presence in the UK may not be conducive to the public good, unquote. Both Piker and Uygur are outspoken in their criticism of Israel. Recent comments from that have drawn scrutiny include Piker saying that as a, quote, lesser evil voter, he would vote for Hamas over Israel every single time, unquote. The week prior to their ban, British Labour MP David Taylor called for Piker to be barred, saying, quote, it's shocking that South by Southwest would invite someone who's openly supported a proscribed terrorist organization and spouted these kinds of vile anti-Semitic rants to speak at their festival. With the unacceptable rise in anti-Semitism on our streets, leaving British Jews in a constant state of anxiety, Hassan Piker is clearly not conducive to the public good, he said. Hassan Piker is one of the most prominent online influencers on the left. He has millions of followers and subscribers across social media platforms. He live streams on the gaming platform Twitch for hours every day. Recently, he's drawn the ire of the Democratic Party leadership for endorsing and campaigning on behalf of progressive candidates in primaries across the country. To talk more about his ban from the UK, his views on Israel, his critique of the Democratic Party, and more, we're joined by Hassan Piker from his home, where he streams in West Hollywood, California. Hassan, welcome to Democracy Now! Can you start off by responding to this ban on you? And Cenk is your uncle, is that right? Cenk
Yes.
Uygur, on what this means. In fact, you're going to virtually participate in the Oxford debate anyway, right?
Yeah. I was also supposed to, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a real honor to be on the show. I'm basically listening to the show a lot earlier than I normally would, because I usually do that in my morning routine. So Cenk and I were supposed to participate at the Oxford Union. We were supposed to do different panels at South by Southwest. I was also supposed to have a conversation with Jeremy Corbyn and Zach Polanski, the leader of the Green Party. And I also had another talk set up with former Greek finance minister Yanis Varoufakis. And then Cenk was supposed to travel to the UK with his family, and he was stopped at the airport, and he found out that his visa had been rescinded and that he could not get on the plane. So I ended up checking my visa as well and found out that my visa was also revoked. Now, I find what the British government did here to be objectionable. I find it to be disgusting. I also find it to be terrifying. I think it's a terrifying prospect for the future of Western liberal democracies. The fact that a country that has in the past harbored much more radical thinkers than myself to completely drop all pretext that they care about free expression instead of protecting it is, I think, a sign of the times. I think it's a sign that we're moving down we're headed down a very different, dare I say, fascist direction in the Western world.
And this is happening, Hassan, under a Labour government in Britain, especially given Britain's particular role when it comes to Israel and Palestine being the primary imperial power that allowed the creation or promoted the development of the state of Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a lot of culpability. That extends far beyond the Balfour Declaration, and the British government has been coordinating with the Israeli government. The Royal Air Force has been conducting surveillance missions, flying off of their Cyprus base. Keir Starmer has actually visited this base and has openly admitted that he could never say in broad daylight what the Royal Air Force is doing there. Starmer has also invited Isaac Herzog, who has been mentioned in the ICC and the ICJ court cases against both Israel and Israeli officials, like former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So the fact that England extends a red carpet to war criminals and collaborators of war criminals that have played a role in the genocide of the Palestinians, but then critics of Israel are considered to be real threats, significant threats to public safety, is preposterous. But once again, I think this is a real warning. Just as the prescription of Palestine action and the mass arrests that have taken place of pensioners in the UK that have demonstrated in support of Palestine action was a very clear attempt by the British government to do the exact opposite of the democratic process, to refuse to listen to the very just and moral demands of the masses and instead suppress their voices and try to silence them through state repression is very clear that there's a terrifying direction that the UK is headed down. And yes, it is the Labour government's complicity both in the crimes that Israel has committed, but it's also the Labour government's complicity in the acceleration towards fascism. Because the next government that comes in, if it's, God forbid, a reform government, a far-right authoritarian government, they're going to overtake this exact same process, and they might not have even the restrictions that the Labour government is applying currently. So to offer them the keys of the castle in this manner is complicity. It's something that we've seen. It's appeasement. It's something that we've seen throughout history in the past where liberals assume. Honestly, this might be it for me. I'm tired of waiting around for Hassan like I don't have anything better to do. Clearly, he doesn't respect our time. Why should we respect his? This is a mutual relationship as far as I'm concerned, but it's beginning to seem very one-sided. I think this is where I unfollow and unsub. 48 months, by the way. Thanks, everyone, but I can't take it anymore. God forbid I'm away from the fucking camera while I'm literally talking, wearing the same exact goddamn suit too, and showing you a video from earlier in the day. Okay? God forbid. That's great copy pasta. That they could overtake the reactionary demands coming from the right in an effort to keep control, and they ultimately failed to the fascists.
I wanted to ask you also about another international issue which you've been involved.
Read logs. Tupac just got announced in the new Ryuga Gotoku game. Oh my God. Okay. Nice, dude. You're doing great in that video. I don't think you did poorly. Okay, good. All right.
With
I'm skipping the rest of this. We're not watching The National, but I did do an interview with The National as well the other
On
day.
Monday, Hassan Pai.
You guys can listen to that as well. Let's get to the bombshell. Bombshell. The Tsar Bomba. The Tsar Bomba of allegations launched against Graham Plattner. Ladies and gentlemen, is that your 1983 Armani suit? No, it's not. This is a Polo Ralph Lauren, just the jacket. So yesterday I covered this, but I'm just going to touch up on it a little bit. For the last week or so, a lot of operatives on the political side were spelling trouble for the Graham Plattner Maine Senate run. They said over and over again that things were going to get really bad for Graham. Okay? Graham Plattner was going to be outed as doing heinous things. And there was even suspicion that there was a sexual assault allegation coming. I mean, it was horrible things, right? Turns out the New York Times has spent the last 6 or so months. Okay? Turns out for the last 6 months or so, the New York Times had gone and extensively looked through every single relationship that Graham Plattner had and conducted interviews with every single former partner of Graham Plattner. Now, this, you might think, is maybe a little crazy. Like, obviously, there's a lot of background information that people look for when someone is running for Senate. I will openly admit that I've never actually seen this level of coverage. Perhaps there was some, and maybe I missed it, but I have never personally seen this level of investigative reporting on the possible misdealings of someone running for Senate. Okay? It's a bit much. It's a bit much. So in any case, they did that. What about Matt Gaetz? One, not running for office, and two, after Matt Gaetz's best friend was in a criminal trial and went to jail for sexual misconduct related issues. You do understand that there's a difference between, like, if there is smoke, there's fire. That makes sense. This is a targeted attempt at doing opposition research. You get it, right? Like, this is an attempt to create smoke and then therefore point to the fire. Matt Gaetz's case also involved minors. There's a difference in the example that you used, as evidenced by the fact that no one knew about Matt Gaetz doing this when he was running, and they only found out about it after his best friend was arrested and criminally prosecuted. That's my argument, right? A little bit different. So, yeah, for sex trafficking, his best friend got convicted of sex trafficking, and some of the victims were minors, including some of the minors that were found to be involved with Matt Gaetz, none of which came out until this, court proceeding took place, and none of it certainly came out during the opposition research that was conducted on Matt Gaetz when Matt Gaetz was running. So very different set of circumstances. I need you to understand, right? Now, the New York Times wrote this entire article where they went to 6 of Graham Plattner's former girlfriends, and 4 out of 6 of them had some, neutral or nice things to say, straight up nice things to say. I say 4 out of 6. One of them wasn't as neutral because one of them actually said that it reminded him of him being Graham Plattner being misogynistic, right? That one is a neutral. And then one said they had a complex relationship, and there was one instance that ended the relationship where Graham Plattner showed up at her house drunk after she said, "Don't come over." Okay? But there was one ex-girlfriend that had a lot to say about Graham Plattner, including some fairly significant allegations where she drew a line at like domestic violence, but basically most people that would read that would say this is domestic violence, right? Like, she said that Graham Plattner had never like physically hurt her, but had gotten physical with her, and she was in fear, right? Now, that one person, the New York Times also reported, did not actually have any corroborating evidence. After the New York Times looked through and reviewed all of her text messages, and the text messages she had with her friends, like the conversation, they read her diary. And then the New York Times openly wrote in the article that there was no corroboration. Like, the New York Times could not independently verify these allegations, and there was no corroboration. Now, that's pretty significant. And the reason for why that's significant is because this is a massive allegation. Like, the most maximum version of this is to accuse someone running for Senate of domestic abuse, domestic violence, right? And when you have an allegation of this sort, and you're not like some fucking random YouTuber or the New York Post, if you are the paper of record, if you're the Gray Lady, if you are the New York Times, these claims need to be accompanied with a tremendous amount of evidence, corroborating evidence. Now, the reason why I say that is because the New York Times upholds an editorial standard. Now, at times, we have seen the New York Times reduce their editorial standards. One of the most famous instances of the New York Times openly reducing their editorial standards in an effort to get a story out was with the article Screams Without Words. The article that accused Hamas militants and the entire Palestinian resistance of engaging in coordinated, mass-directed mass rapes on October 7. Virtually every single piece of information that they delivered in that article has been completely dismissed and proven to be wrong. Okay? And there was a lot of internal conflict at the New York Times at the time. The story became how this became a story in and of itself, right? Now, of course, the damage was done already. People went with it. People went along with it. And to this day, people still get very upset when you say there was no mass rapes that took place on October 7. There's no evidence, rather, of mass rapes that took place on October 7. And certainly not directed by Hamas. And what's interesting about that is that I know for a fact that there was a lot of internal commotion with this specific story as well. Okay? The New York Times, once again, lowered their editorial standards instead of upholding their and maintaining their integrity and upholding their editorial standards. They chose to reduce them. And in the process of reducing them, they wrote this article, and they obviously couldn't New York Post it and fucking hit the Graham Plattner is a domestic abuser. They came out with the title. Where is the New York Times report on it? Let me see if I can find it real quick. They basically wrote this article where they were like, several women, exclusive from the New York Times, several women who dated Graham Plattner recall unsettling behavior. Okay? This is a way to basically say, you should be worried about Graham Plattner, but we don't have enough information to openly tell you why. Okay? And of course, there were still a lot of people who obviously read the headline and didn't already like Graham Plattner for a litany of different reasons that went along with it. They were like, this is fucking bullshit. So are you saying you think it's untrue, or what you're saying about the allegations? I think that there was embellishment. There was a little bit of maybe hyperbole, potentially, or at least there's enough cause for suspicion that there is hyperbole in some of the statements that one of the girlfriends of Graham Plattner made. And the reason for why I say this is because we very quickly found out, well, one, the reason why I say this is because the New York Times itself said this, right? Like or at least they leaned into it, right? Because remember, professional journalists are fairly decent writers, and they also have a legal team. They know exactly how to soft pedal a domestic violence allegation without actually saying it, without actually just like leaning across the finish line. But then they'll engage in some ass covering in the process, right? And it's interesting because like the long and short of it is 7 ex-girlfriends are interviewed, and half of them have nothing but nice things to say. And then one of them says they ended the relationship on a sour note. And then one has all the meat, all of the allegations. It just happens to be that the person that had the allegations is a Republican operative who has not only been a Republican operative for the past decade, but is a Republican operative that has exclusively worked with an organization that actually is responsible for the PR initiative that got Susan Collins across the finish line on the Brett Kavanaugh appointment, when Brett Kavanaugh had a litany of rape allegations that surrounded his appointment proceeding. Do you understand? Like, I want to find the actual point that that is the most interesting. Cassie Pritchard, this has dramatically reduced how much weight I'm giving her Plattner accusations from a lot to nearly none. It strains credulity that some longtime GOP operative in Nova really thinks the New York Times duped her into aid Plattner, doesn't know how fact check works, etc., but is perfectly calibrated for a partisan conservative audience and to raise her own standing. Yeah. Okay. Jesus Christ. The fact that the ultras are biting on this so hard makes me so disappointed in the U.S. left. It merits suspicion. No, many of the ultras that I've seen, this was their turning point when they were like, oh, I see what's going on here. I saw numerous people on the timeline be like, I fucking hate Graham Plattner. He's literally a war criminal. I despise him. But this is very clearly a Zionist smear job. Zay Squirrel came out against the New York Times on this. Because it is that. Let's be real. Okay? It is that. They are trying to actively besmirch and tarnish and ruin the chances of a Democrat possibly being the majority vote in an otherwise Republican-controlled Senate that also happens to be a Democrat that's openly anti-Israel. And that's a big problem for a lot of people. Yeah, look. I don't like Plattner as he's an unrepented war criminal who volunteered to be a Blackwater mercenary, but that New York Times piece is the most transparent Israel lobby Zionist smear piece bullshit. Every part of it, from the fake victim to the authors, is fabricated by rabid Zionist freaks. This person, if there were, look, when I read the article, what did I tell you from the start? If there were other Republicans, not Republican operatives, but just like regular Republican women that Graham Plattner dated, that had anything that would like corroborate similar experiences to the major testimonial coming from Lindsay Fifield, the party with all of the allegations, then there would be a little bit more weight. There would probably be a little bit more weight to the accusation. There would be a lot more credibility to the accusations. And for the record, again, Graham Plattner, PTSD-addled vet, has alcohol issues. It makes perfect sense for there to be something there, okay? So it's definitely not an unbelievable story. It's definitely a very believable story. As a matter of fact, I would go so far as to say millions of Americans have similar complex stories with relationships that they've had with their loved ones when they come back from active duty combat. So this is not a unique story at all, okay? The uniqueness of this story, perhaps, comes from the fact that the only person that had these allegations was a Republican operative that had specifically worked on the Brett Kavanaugh case to urge the Republican Party to who did crisis PR basically for the Republican Party, including but not limited to Susan Collins, who Graham Plattner is working to unseat, in writing a message that would allow her to defend in the post-Me Too era appointing Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court of the United States. Inez Stepman and Lindsay Fifield are two millennial women who co-founded the group Ladies for Kavanaugh to show their support for the nominee. Their pro-Kavanaugh group was formed on their own time. Not only did this lady work for a group, as a Republican operative, work for a group, Independent Women for Congress or something, I forget what it's called, that wrote the PR message for Susan Collins and every other Republican that would justify their vote for Brett Kavanaugh in spite of the rape allegations. But she literally co-founded the group Ladies for Kavanaugh to show their support for the nominee when they felt that view was being left out of the public discourse. Their day jobs are in conservative politics. Stepman at the Independent Women's Forum, this is the group that she's a part of, and Fifield are at the Heritage Foundation, who Fifield then joined, or joined before Independent Women's Group. Okay? Fifield and her pro-Kavanaugh friends had stayed quiet during the original hearings while liberal women raged in the streets and on social media. But in the wake of baseless 11th hour accusations orchestrated to stop Kavanaugh's confirmation, we couldn't stay silent anymore. Fifield said. The person who wrote the article is a former AIPAC activist of the year, by the way. The journalist at the New York Times who wrote the article that would normally not meet the paper's editorial standards, her name is Katie Glick, who literally has received an award from AIPAC. So down to the bone of this article, you see something nefarious afoot. I didn't even know that she also started on her own time, apparently, a group called Ladies for Kavanaugh, which makes it even less substantive, her allegations. The 2016 text from Fifield's friend saying, "Do not call Graham," is a load-bearing pillar of the New York Times story. The reporters used it to illustrate that people in Fifield's life were aware of their allegations. They even made it a heading. Now Fifield says the text was a joke from a friend after she ended another relationship. If it were a joke, surely the New York Times reporters would have known, since they read her messages. And if it wasn't a joke, why is Fifield now claiming it was? Do not call Graham. That was the fucking headline of the piece. Some new information has come out since this article, and that's why I was covering it again. Okay? One, this is something that I covered yesterday, but of course, Lindsay Fifield has lied in the past about Mahmoud Khalil and Rameza Öztürk, saying they were not targeted for advocacy against Israel. They're being held accountable for destruction of property, organizing violent actions, making threats to Jewish students, and distributing materials funded by state-designated terrorist groups. You'll be surprised to learn you can't promote terrorism and death to America while you're here on a student visa or green card. Let's see an update. Interesting assertion. All I've seen is that Öztürk wrote an op-ed. Do you have evidence otherwise? Her arrest had nothing to do with an op-ed. That was the lie they ran with, and you just nom that talking point right up without question. So I ask you once again, if someone is so involved in political knife fights of this sort that as a political operative that is so invested in defending the Zionist occupation and the genocide, that they will actively lie about legal permanent residents writing op-eds and being criminalized for criticizing the state of Israel, what makes you think they won't fucking make up shit about a possible senator that will be openly against Israel, a reliable vote against Israel? What makes you think that they won't do that? You have to be fucking delusional to not be skeptical of these allegations. This is not a normal, random person. Lindsay Fifield, serious question. What would go in a Palestinian museum? What are their accomplishments, inventions, or notable figures apart from terrorists and bombs made from the water pipes Israel gave them to pipe in free water for their people? So just remember all of that. But yeah, Lindsay Fifield, since the article came out, has also responded. She wrote 13 hours ago, she wrote these long, extensive screeds on Twitter. She said, anyone who's ever extracted themselves from a relationship with a narcissistic abuser knows it isn't clean or easy. I cringe remembering how many times I tried to play the cool girl or fawn in response to what was clearly abusive, coercively controlling behavior by Graham. I also know how dangerous it is to become the target of a narcissist, so even long after our relationship ended, I continued to be upbeat at any time he reached out, though I would also immediately shut down any attempts on his part to initiate flirting or romanticizing of the past. Yes, the day I saw him announce he was running, I wanted to make sure people knew he had a Nazi tattoo, and I was terrified he would find out it was me. But of course he knew it was me. What's ironic is I absolutely never would have shared my story if he hadn't been relentlessly attacking my character behind the scenes for months once the tattoo story came out. I tried to signal that I wasn't the source and stayed completely silent about him on social media, even as most of my friends posted regularly about what a bad person he is. But then in early April, the New York Times came to me. I asked how they got my number. I said I was not interested in sharing my story. They said, but wait, there are other women terrified to tell their stories too. And you need to band together. We will help you. We will protect you. Men can't keep getting away with this. Guess what? This is what a Republican operative does. Now that her credibility has been tarnished all up and down the timeline, she's pulling the fuck the New York Times cord to at least manage her own personal reputation and perhaps still continue to be a Republican operative. Notice how she immediately shifts the blame over to the New York Times and says, oh, the New York Times actually had credible rape accusations. Actually, they were going to Me Too him. Classic New York Times inventing Me Too scandals. Right? That's it. That's literally what she's doing. She's signaling to the conservative crowd that she's still open for business. Hours before, wait, where the fuck did it go? Jesus Christ. Hours before their first call to me, I saw Eric Swalwell's nameplate get removed from his office door in Cannon. It felt like fate. I welcomed the two journalists. Oh, then it brings up Eric Swalwell. Like there's a similarity here. I welcomed the two journalists into my home days later, nervous and overwhelmed. Justin Fairfax had just murdered his wife and himself the previous day, and even conservative pundits were conjecturing that if only those women hadn't accused him of abuse, this would have never happened. But I told them my story. I let them, implying that Graham Plattner is going to fucking murder her. I told them my story. I let them take pictures of my diary pages. I sent them screenshots to messages and gave them phone numbers and contacts. It was excruciating. I was surprised by what details I remembered. And as I poured through old messages, I was horrified by how much I'd forgotten. I explained very clearly that, like many women abused by their partners, I had not told anyone about his violence at the time. I had covered for it and defended it. I accepted his earnest apologies. They said that's fine because the diary entries and my on-the-record story was enough. They connected me to two of the other victims so we wouldn't feel so alone. I insisted to each of them that I trusted the New York Times journalists and what we were doing was the right thing despite their sadly very accurate sense that something was wrong. One of the victims and I realized our relationship with Graham overlapped completely. He had been cheating on both of us the entire time we were together. I should note here that my life is just ... beautiful. These are the best years of my life, raising two young girls in a safe, beautiful neighborhood where I work from home and shuttle my children from dance classes and soccer to church events. I'm blessed far beyond what I deserve, wonderful friends and family, and the most loving, brilliant husband in the world. Why would I blow up my life like this? Why would I risk the psychotic doxing from violent leftist activists? Because while I have been terrified to come forward, I decided this was the hard right thing to do. The guilt of staying silent had nagged me. Most therapists recommended a gray rock approach to extracting yourself from narcissistic abuse. It works really well. But it's a gift to the abuser, allowing them to persist in their delusion that they've done nothing wrong. I couldn't stay silent. Yeah, she also lied about still being an active Republican operative. The New York Times said that Lindsay Fifield had been out of politics and isn't doing anything with the conservative dark money group Independent Women's Forum anymore, but here she is getting quoted at a Republican congressional event mid-April of 2026, a few weeks ago, with IWF as her ID. This requires a correction from the New York Times, mind you. Like that is straight up wrong information. The New York Times is putting, like, they didn't put any effort into looking into her background at all, or they did and chose not to report on it. Dude is still doing this shit? Yes, I am. Yes, and I think it's important to do this, even for someone of shitty character or poor moral choices in the past, as far as like joining fucking Blackwater. Do you want to know why? Because it's you have to fucking push back if you see a smear job being conducted by a fucking Republican operative, because if you don't actually build some fucking backbone towards this kind of thing, you're going to constantly find yourself duped by Republican operatives in the future, as you have done so in the past. Republicans love tugging on our heartstrings, okay? They love tugging on our heartstrings. They never abide by the same moral standards or the principles, and they actually deploy a unique set of circumstances and principles to you that you might not even abide by. And then they accuse you of hypocrisy in the process. And people on the sidelines get duped by it every single fucking time. They weaponize woke. 100% they weaponize woke. This is all they fucking do. It's the most obvious shit. A woman who does not give a single shred of a solitary fuck about rape allegations, so much so that she actively worked to persuade people to vote for Brett Kavanaugh as the next Supreme Court justice, who then turned around and, of course, returned the favor to all women in the United States of America with the abortion decision, for the record, after lying to everyone that it was a super precedent that wouldn't be touched, is now supposed to be the single, solitary, lone victim and witness to Graham Plattner's serial domestic abuse that they tried to present it as. Anyway, here's the second statement. I bucked all advice from my friends. I guess this person has blocked me already. Yeah. I was like, why can't I fucking interact with her shit? But it turns out I was blocked by her. Makes sense. I bucked all advice from my friends and resisted my conservative bias and decided to fully trust the Times journalists. Okay? As they left my home, they asked that I not talk to any other outlets, and I insisted then and repeatedly over the following weeks that I would keep my word and only share the story with them. But then the weeks dragged on. They kept coming back to us saying the editors needed more. I needed to go on the record. Okay, we need more screenshots. Okay, I met every benchmark they set, eager to provide more sources or evidence as needed. After the story went up, I began to ask them, wait, where are the other stories about the other women? Where are their accusations of sexual assault? Why am I the focus? Why are there 11 paragraphs dedicated to detail of my work history, more than has been published about Grams by far? Why does it say nobody could corroborate when I offered them sources that could corroborate? Why did they include an out-of-context quote from a friend joking, do not call Graham, after I called off my wedding because she knew I would never? So what's really fucked up is that they literally, the New York Times also added, do not call Graham. That wasn't even about like Graham Plattner in that moment. It was a joke. And they fucking added that in as evidence to suggest that Graham Plattner was actually, a horrible, abusive monster that even all of her friends knew. And now she's actually fucking opposing that framing as well. Where were the screenshots they said they'd use, or the mention that I supported local Democrats and that most of my family and husband are liberal? The editor said it was too much, they explained. The Times also failed to include any mention that I did confide in multiple friends throughout the years that Graham had been abusive long before he was running for office. Those friends confirmed they told the Times so. It dawned on me that this really was a setup all along. The journalist I trusted who convinced me to share a story I never wanted to tell methodically delayed and twisted this into a gift to the Plattner campaign, violating the trust of the victims. Yeah, dude, yes, this was a catch and release story. Like, that's the argument now. Now she's saying that this is a fucking catch and release story, that they actually hit this bombshell to defend Graham Plattner. And at the end of my call with them, I reluctantly accepted their insistence that this was a powerful story and that I had done a brave thing, and I thanked them for all the hard work they put into it, still fawning after all these years. And now there's a complaint about DC's culture for women from someone who is literally paid to do character assassination on Christine Blasey Ford in order to confirm the man who overturned Roe v. Wade. There genuinely doesn't seem to be an iota of good faith to this. For those of you who think I should have said something at the time, let me remind you of DC's culture for women, and sadly, nothing has changed. When I sent this tweet 13 years ago about a Republican staffer, the next morning, my boss at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce pulled me into his office and told me Congressional Affairs was furious and that I could get fired if I spoke to reporters. I had tweeted a photo of the staffer's business card, which I did agree to delete, but I refused to delete this. Everyone at Tune In was mad at me for talking about it. Yeah, this culture is real, for the record. But I'm sorry, you have literally been one of the most loyal servants of this culture for the last decade. And as a matter of fact, the additional commentary that you've offered on this issue implies that you still choose to be a loyal servant of this culture. This is you worked for organizations that fought to not only maintain this culture, but are the most loyal servants of this culture. Again, I'm done. I'm done with Republican agents and reactionaries weaponizing woke. I'm done with it. This is one of the things that we got to excise from our movement. Okay? Straight up. This is one of those things that I think needs to stop. These people do not care about this stuff. Okay? They don't. They're weaponizing it against people who they perceive do, who will easily get duped. Okay? Stop eating the fucking bait. Hook, line, and goddamn sinker. I will say this. I'm probably one of the more rare individuals who has actually leaned further in Graham Plattner's direction in the aftermath of these sorts of stories, because I recognize that the people who are launching these attacks are objectively worse than he is now as a person, regardless of what he may or may not have done, okay, as a trigger man for empire. Right now, the reason why they're attacking him is not because of that. The reason why they're attacking him is in spite of that and because of his statements about Israel. And it is very fucking obvious. Natasha Korecki knew so far there hasn't been no mass exodus from Dems who endorse Plattner. He intends to attend a Bar Harbor rally Friday with Ro Khanna. Plattner backers forging ahead. It's a lot harder to dislodge us because we know the man. Democrats smeared every woman who stepped forward against Clinton, and there were a lot, including people who had textured claims of rape by him. If they did that for a rich person's Democrat, I don't see the justification for ditching Plattner. That's the other thing. Bill Clinton actually did do those things. So far, there is no evidence of Graham Plattner doing anything close to what Bill Clinton has done. Yeah, actual Mainers.
Play into.
Actual Mainers also give their response to the Graham Plattner allegations and how they feel about him after. But yeah, Joan Walsh when it's her preferred centrist establishment white male versus Joan Walsh when it's a lefty outsider white male. The troublesome Tara Reid story. Yeah, Graham Plattner's rocket to stardom reflects something ugly that's developed not only on the right but the left. The only acceptable form of identity politics is now white male identity politics. Okay. Why are we not entertaining the concept that both could be true? She can be targeting his campaign, and it can also be true that an alcoholic combat vet has a tendency to sex women while married, get a Nazi tattoo, work for Blackwater. And why did bro date a Republican Kavanaugh head? Does homie ever make a good decision? Did I say that Graham Plattner makes good decisions? He clearly doesn't. I don't think we're in disagreement there, my friend. As a matter of fact, he is a lifetime of bad decisions, from joining the Marine Corps to go on fucking 4 separate tours of duty, and then joining Blackwater, getting a fucking, getting a tattoo in any tattoo parlor in Split, Croatia is always going to give you a 50-50 chance that it's a fucking Nazi tattoo at a Nazi tattoo parlor, by the way. So that's also another bad decision. Okay. So yeah, he has a lifetime of bad decisions. I don't disagree with that. Yeah, he never worked for Blackwater. Yeah, it's cope. He worked for a private security contractor that was an offshoot of Blackwater. Blackwater obviously didn't exist at the time because of all the fucking war crimes that they had committed. And yes, he did diplomacy security. I know. He got a contract for guarding a U.S. ambassador, a program set up by Obama. These radlibs favor president. Yes, I know. I know all of that. I'm aware of all that. It's still, it still, once again, shows that, he didn't have the right mindset at all. I'm puzzled as to why people on the left are lumping Hamawi and El-Sayed in with Plattner. Hamawi is the victim of a racist smear campaign seeking to discredit a respected doctor with a first-person account of the genocide. Plattner simply has more baggage than God. Yeah, whatever happens with Plattner, the Democratic right and sympathetic media is going to try and hang his campaign around the neck of every other left-wing candidate like an albatross. No one loves comparisons between Plattner and 2 squeaky clean doctors more. Yeah, it's fucking totally ridiculous. And guess what? That is also part of the reason why I'm redoubling my attitude on this. Do you understand? Because why are they fucking engaging in unbelievable racist smears against Adam Hamawi, basically an American hero in every way, shape, or form. Okay. One of the best and brightest that America has ever offered. Okay. Why are they attacking him? Why are they trying to invent controversy around him? Same with Abdul El-Sayed. Incredibly accomplished doctor with 2 degrees, Rhodes Scholar, worked in fucking public health in Detroit. Why? Why are they trying to also mire him in controversy? Why are they trying to tar and feather them? Perhaps it has something to do with their positions. Perhaps it has something to do with their positions around Israel. That is exactly what this is. And if you can't see it, I'm sorry, you're being played a fool. Okay? You have to have a little bit more backbone. You have to have a little bit more scrutiny in your lives, okay? But why does Chuck Schumer support Plattner? Because at the end of the day, Chuck Schumer is the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. Chuck Schumer loves Israel first and foremost. Chuck Schumer can get away with not supporting openly Zohran Mamdani for New York mayor. But if Chuck Schumer came out and did the Jake Auchincloss shit and said, oh, I don't really care if there's a Democratic majority, they would probably kill him, okay? Proverbially, not literally, but like Democrats would literally be like, enough, that's over. You're done. No, it's not because Plattner is white, chatters. It's not because Plattner is white. There are different priorities here. What you can and can't say. Auchincloss can say that because he's in the fucking House of Representatives. Okay? Chuck Schumer can't literally oppose his own potential majority. Are you fucking insane? Plattner is running for Senate. Chuck Schumer is the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. And even then, he reluctantly defended it. So, yeah, in Zoran's case, the alternative was Cuomo. In Maine, the alternative is a Republican, which means the Democrats can't take the majority in the Senate. If Pill's Mafia was still in the race, you'd hear Chuck Schumer's real opinions on Graham Plattner. Okay?
Arc that is one of redemption. They're willing to continue to back him. Here is some of what we heard.
Does he have a problematic past? Yes, but I would rather have a redemption story than somebody telling you how wonderful they are, how much.
Bro, white people love Graham Plattner. That's the other side of the story, that like there is something that they see in him where they see him as like the second coming. I swear to God. God damn. No, they fucking love the dude, okay?
Much research they do, and yet they still make the wrong decision for the people of Maine.
Would I date him? No. But it does play into his character. But we're not looking for perfection. We are where we are. We have a Senate that's controlled by the Republicans who are.
They're so locked in. I mean, look, I'm sorry. I do have a lot of respect for the Barbaras and the Deborahs. They're so fucking locked in. This is literally politics. Okay? They're like, I don't care. He's a reliable vote. He's a reliable vote against fucking the Republican Party and Donald Trump and MAGA. Sorry, not going to happen. That's it. That's literally it. At the end of the day, they have a better understanding of politics, real world politics, than motherfucking ultras do. Okay? They do. They're looking at this and going, okay, who's a reliable vote against Donald Trump? A fucking Democrat or Susan Collins? That's it. That's the calculation. You say you don't like Graham Plattner, you're not gonna. You're subscribing to a potential of a Republican majority in the Senate, a continuation of the Republican majority in the Senate. Harm reduction narratives don't work as well when there's a Democrat in charge. Harm reduction narratives for the Senate or for Congress as a whole absolutely work, especially when the Republican president is in charge and molesting the money with regular frequency. And not just molesting the money, really, but also actively implementing fascism in the country. For many, I don't think it goes beyond that. Why do Mainers support Plattner despite his flaws? He talks a lot about the issues that affect their daily lives. More than half of Mainers struggle to afford basic necessities, while Susan Collins keeps voting to fund wars overseas. People are looking for change. When an imperfect candidate offers a path forward, many are willing to take that chance. Yes, the beautiful story here for us is not that Graham Plattner is a fucking hero and he's the best and he's the coolest guy around and he should run for president. I'm not saying any of that shit, okay? The cool story for us, for the watchers, for the leftists who still believe that we could make at least some marginal changes in Congress and maybe make some gains in the process, is that when you have a solid foundational policy that centers the working class, you develop a tremendous amount of loyalty from the base. Loyalty that causes the base to overlook your very clear personality flaws. Does that remind you of perhaps another cult-like leader who did the same thing but for Republicans, which means that he did the same thing with culture war issues and racism and things like that, because obviously Republicans were not actually, looking for someone who was going to be a real fighter for the working class on material issues, but instead was looking for someone who would be a fighter for the working class on issues such as fomenting racism and dominating the vulnerable, marginalized identities that were presented as like the real reason for why you're suffering financially. FD pointed out how Platinum gets way too much national attention while other progressives exist. I'm inclined to agree with them. I actually, low-consensually, don't necessarily hate that because I think he's fairly strong. And this actually focuses the attention away from smear jobs that, candidates that I'm aligned with actually could withstand potentially. You know what I mean? Like, it's good that he's a magnet for all of the Zionist enmity right now. He's tanking it. Dems new from Andrew Howard. New latest accusations against Plattner are leaving fellow Democrats in an uncomfortable holding pattern until Tuesday's primary. Everyone waiting to see the margin with Mills, who hasn't campaigned since April. That's insane. She literally dropped out and then turned around and was like, actually, we're not dropping out. Never mind. I'm still on the ticket. Get your licks in now. Get your reps in now, chatters. It's going to get worse. You're going to see a litany of racialized smears that you have never seen since like right after 9/11 when Abdul El-Sayed, inshallah, wins the primary. And it's not just going to come from the Republicans. It's going to come from the exact same Democrats that are currently implying that Graham Plattner is a rapist. Okay? I'm letting you know right now, if you're not cut out for it on this one, if you can't use this as a reliable opportunity to gain some experience in dancing in these treacherous waters, you're going to get fucked. Because get ready. Because one thing that Graham Plattner has that Abdul El-Sayed does not is a superpower in the eyes of the broader electorate. And that is, he's white. Okay? Hey, Sapapa, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. From just watching part of the stream last night, I thought that was the allegations because of how implied that is what he did. Yeah. Just warning y'all.
Presumptive chat.
Colin's inability to even feign outrage over this bullshit only further proves the fact that it's a non-story. Yeah, when I saw Senator Whitehouse be like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about this story, I was like, oh, it's done. And then Kirsten Gillibrand too. That's what finalized it for me, because Kirsten Gillibrand very famously was the responsible party for Al Franken's resignation. The terror jacketing of Zoran. Yeah, I thought Gillibrand's statement was a cryptic non-comment, like not standing by Graham by name. There's another reason why the smear job is happening. Plattner is a progressive in a swing district if he wins. Yes, I already mentioned that as well. It doesn't just stop Trump. It discredits the entire centrist theory that the party must go right. Remember, the bland centrist Dem got owned in 2020 in Maine? That same thing is true for Abdul in Michigan. Both parties must see them lose. Remember Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin. These centrist scum would rather lose. I agree. 100%. I like Graham Plattner and Matt Iglesias is already fucking maneuvering in the direction of being pro Graham Plattner so he can set it himself up to say, oh, I never actually implied that Graham Plattner's politics could never win in a state like Maine and unseat a Republican, right? Some of them are smart enough to understand what's going on, and they're trying to, protect their comfortable sinecure. Others are excitedly trying to fuck over the run to prove their priors, that to prove the ideological zealotry is actually not zealotry, but instead sound, reasonable analysis, that you simply can't be a progressive in a red state or running for a red seat. Yeah. This internal poll came out that was 46-46. It was a push poll, I think. Okay. Of course, Jewish Insider immediately jumped on it to be like, see, it's working. He's bad. He's bad news, guys. Maine Senate poll conducted by GOP pollster Tony Fabrizio from June 1 the 3rd after sexting allegations before physical abuse story puts him at 46-46. Graham Plattner's image has cratered, with his unfavorables nearly doubling. Here is how they suggested Graham Plattner in the internal poll. The internal poll literally refers to Plattner as a pedophile, and they're tied at the same numbers at Fabrizio's last poll way back in January. Graham Plattner is actively texting on a social media website notorious for sexually preying on children. This website has been described as a predator's paradise, and it's still 46-46. Do you fucking understand? Yeah. He's actually gaining on Collins. Post texting scandal, sexting scandal. Yeah, the GOP attack, the GOP and pro-Israel lobby-backed attack against Graham Plattner flopped so fucking hard that the Daily Caller has now resorted to saying it was a soft catch and kill operation. So the Republican method went from, oh, Graham Plattner is a vicious rapist monster, implying that he's like a vicious domestic abuser, rapist monster, to actually the New York Times is collaborating with Graham Plattner. Incredible. Let's see how Susan Collins responded to the story.
Your presumptive challenger in November's election, Graham Plattner, another scandal, I guess you would say, coming out in the New York Times yesterday. What's your reaction to it? Have you had a chance to read the story, and what's the takeaway from you?
The allegations in the latest story are troubling, and I believe that Graham Plattner has a lot of questions to answer.
Do you think it will cost him votes, and should it cost him votes this November?
Well, that's really up to the people of Maine.
Dude, first debate is over. I'm calling it. First debate, Assad numbers. She's going to be shaking like jello up on that stage, and everyone is going to be reminded. And Maine is a very old state, by the way. The average voter age is, I believe, 44. And even then, old people don't want to see another old person in charge any longer. Here is Madeline Dean celebrating her special friends from AIPAC. Yeah, new Democratic representative. God, this is one of the nastiest things that the fucking ZNN does. Immediately, they'll look for any Democrat, any AIPAC stooge, they can to come up and be like, well, his own party is actually opposing him. Okay? Remember, they even did this to a much more limited degree when I went to the Delaney facility. There were counter-protesters there. The counter-protesters were yelling a bunch of fucking insane shit as we were going back to the hotel room to conduct an interview with Adam Hamawi. And immediately, they framed that as, oh, the left is actually opposing Hassan. They love doing this, where it's like, it's even your own party hates you, okay? And then the controversy expands beyond that, where it's like, well, even if his own party is opposing him, how does he have any shot at winning?
All of the stories that are coming out, and they're more and more, it seems, by the hour. I'm not a voter in Maine, but he has disqualified himself in my eyes. He is not qualified to be a representative, a senator. We'll see what Maine does about it, and I know Governor Mills remains on the ballot, but he has disqualified himself.
Do you support Graham Plattner's candidacy?
If you're not a Maine voter who gives a fuck about your opinion, I don't know, Benjamin Netanyahu probably gives a fuck about every pro-Israel person's opinion right now. The fact that the most bloodthirsty Zionist mouthpieces from Van Jones to Fetterman are running with similar narratives about this tabloid trash should tell you all you need to know about it. This is a hit piece motivated by Plattner's strong stance on cutting aid to Israel. Dude, it does worry me a little bit. Like, we're one step removed from, like, some operative deploying stingrays or deploying Pegasus software on fucking oppositional figures' devices, and then scouring through whatever fucking data that they can find to develop another smear. And then we're two steps removed from just straight up trying to assassinate people. Like, literally, what are the only last two things that remain at this point is planting shit, going through illegally their devices, their private details, their private affairs to find anything they possibly can, and then just outright killing them. They're going to use Pegasus on your laptop, yeah, and they're going to find out that my masturbation habits are the most vanilla they've ever seen.
And here, Democratic Senator John Fetterman, Pennsylvania, criticized him not for the first time, saying he's, quote, behaving in a degenerate way, urging voters to back Janet Mills, Maine's governor, in Tuesday's primary. What do you think, Ben?
You know, it's a moment of truth in this party. This is tough. You know, I think that I hear people in our party, and they're saying, why are we...
Wow, another Zionist lapdog saying this is a crisis in our party. Our party? I didn't know the Democrats were also a part of the Likud party, which Van Jones is referencing when he says our party. He's not referencing an American party.
We so tough on our bad guys when the Republicans are so soft on their bad guys. And so, you know, that's the kind of stuff when you're a parent, you struggle with that, because it's like, look, we're running this house. We're not running the house across the street. We're not running the neighbor's house. We're running this house. And so what bothers me about what he's done is not just the things that are being reported about him, but that his stories just don't hold up. He said that he got this stuff under control years ago, and some of this stuff is not years ago, and people are concerned that there's more to come. Look, I don't sit in judgment of anybody. You know, all the work that I've done in prisons, and, you know, I'm a second chances, third chances, fourth chances guy. When you're on a redemption arc for real, when you've taken real accountability, when you've actually owned up and you have a track record, or at least you're honest about where you are in your process. My concern is he tried to polish this thing up. I used to be one way, now I'm not. Well, you better be telling the truth about that, and it seems like he's not. And so now this party's got to look in the mirror. Do you want to sign off on...
Yeah, this kind of stuff only draws enmity, by the way. Liberals hear this shit and try the desperate attempt to be like, we have no moral standing to oppose Donald Trump, the great pedophile redeemer, okay? And they go, fuck you, Van Jones. This doesn't work, okay? This does not work, especially for the intended audience, because he's trying to get the liberals off the Graham Plattner train, right? You should have never brought up the comparisons to the other side, okay? You should have never done that. The biggest mistake is to remind liberals in this very moment that the Republican Party exists, okay? There is no shot, because, like, you'd have a stronger argument potentially if you were to just keep it at his own moral failings or something. But the moment that you remind liberals that the opposition exists and we no longer have a fucking moral standing, that's what he's saying, our party, we no longer have a moral standing, liberals are going to hear that and go, who's we, motherfucker? Are you speaking French? What party are you a part of? Donald Trump? Donald Trump's party. That party.
On the Donald Trump standard of behavior, you got some other people who have very bad behavior in the other party.
Okay, dude. Yeah, that's insane. The two reporters on the New York Times Plattner story, Katie Glick and Lisa Lair, are the same reporters who described Zohran Mamdani's July 2025 win as a spiritual crystal knock. I feel like last night's New York City election results like a spiritual crystal knock. It proved Jew hatred is now okay, posted Jill Kargman, a Jewish writer and actress who has also shared inflammatory content about Muslims in support of Mr. Cuomo. She didn't say that. She quoted that person, to be fair. Anyway. Yeah, this was apparent, but good of Mandel to confirm it. The previous anonymous claim about the tattoo was from the GOP operative, according to her friend Bethany Mandel. So this new claim is not backing up another previous claim. It's the same one from the same person. Bethany says she was trying to tank his campaign and thought it would work, but it didn't, so now she's doing this. Yeah. Bethany, we should be friends with neo-Nazis Mandel. An incredible beacon of morality. Lindsay is loved, respected, and trusted by everyone in town who has the pleasure to know her. It's telling that Michael finds this concept confusing. She came forward with the totem cough many months ago, naively believing that a Nazi tattoo would be disqualifying. Unfortunately, that was a bridge too far, much to our dismay. That was not a bridge too far. Yeah. Graham Plattner should have instead said, not nuking these fucking animals is the only restraint I expect, and that's only because the cloud would hurt Israelis, and then the media class would deem him acceptable. That's what fucking Bethany Mandel said. In 2014, by the way. Why hasn't AOC waded into the primary? She has a much higher standard for who she openly endorses and associates herself with. And I like to think in my headcanon that it's because she considers Graham Plattner to be a revisionist and not a true socialist and not a true communist, and that's why.
Abandoned Graham Plattner after these messages came out, these sexually explicit messages they sent to women?
You know, I haven't waded into that primary. I don't believe the primary has occurred yet. So I would kind of, you know, again, I don't wade in on that. I haven't waded in that race.
Yeah. As a Maoist, she does not like the Khrushchevite era of de-Stalinization that Graham Plattner backed. That's what it is, I think. AOC's wait-and-see approach and overthinking every move, not just with Plattner, is a larger problem for her. If she wants to run in 2028, she's going to look like Kamala Harris 2.0, and I'm not speaking ideologically about her approach. I mean, she's made some pretty fucking solid bets so far, so I'm not going to hold her to it. Yeah. She should not weigh in on that race. She shouldn't even step in a state bordering Maine before the election. Yeah, there's no reason for her to do that. I normally I'm very critical of AOC's lack of endorsement on races. This is not one of those races. After Chevalier's news conference, she took questions from reporters about her own super PAC support. Old social posts empathizing with Vladimir Putin. Oh, God, what a fucking insane way to frame that question. Her appearance at a DSA rally before October 7 attacks, a day after October 7 attacks that Mayor Mamdani avoided and that Brad Lander disavowed. My queen. I cannot stress this enough. I love Daria Lisa and I love Claire so much. Okay? I'm just going to point this. I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. They are incredible. Okay? I haven't felt this excited about supporting candidates. Like, Zoran was the appetizer. Okay? I need you to understand something. Zoran Kwame Mamdani was the motherfucking appetizer, okay? Maybe a mozzarella stick or two, okay? These guys are the fucking meal, okay? They are the main dish. Straight up. Brother, he's a boneless wing? Sure. Zoran simply opened the door for a total communist takeover in New York City? Yeah. Yeah, he's like, I don't even want to put these guys in the same category, okay? Chris Rabb is another one too, like gems that I never thought I would see in Congress, gems that I never thought I would hear from in a position of power. And now we are close. Do you guys understand? Do you understand? For years, I've had to sit around and be like, first of all, self-described socialists even, right? I've had to sit around and expect politicians to come out with statements about American foreign policy that's critical for years. For years, it was Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, and that's it, okay? Sure, AOC is very good on the legislative track, on the legislative side, absolutely. But as far as like being being the tip of the spear and communicating about American imperialism in critical terms, I did not expect that. I never expected that from AOC. Take the foot out of your mouth, uncle. Wait, what? Ranking people is capitalistic. There are genuinely, for the, like, is this You know what I ask myself sometimes? I'm like, is this how fucking like neoliberals feel all the time when there's another like cookie cutter, I don't know, Navy, Air Force drone pilot, lesbian woman that's like running on nuking Medicare for all and giving you like maybe incremental improvements? Like, is this how they feel when they're like, oh, there's a candidate that I identify with ideologically perfectly? Is this how they fucking feel? Because it's a new feeling. It's a new feeling for me. It's a totally new feeling for me where I'm like, wow, a candidate that actually is critical of American foreign entanglements. That's a feeling that I have not felt. Like, do you think neoliberal centrists are like, oh my God, Elisa Slotkin, oh God, love her to pieces. Oh my God, a girl boss like Abigail Spamberger. Oh, I cannot wait for her to veto progressive initiatives that the state legislatures advance in her state. It's gonna be sick. $15 minimum wage? No, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You wanted childcare? No, you're not getting that, because what else do you want? A unicorn? You know, that type of shit. Like, is that how they feel? Because that's got to be a good ass feeling. You gotta have a level of gluttony to just like get so used to constantly having cookie cutter neoliberals who constantly say better things are not possible, and that's the only type of candidate the party has run for the last fucking 4 decades. You know what I mean? The only type of candidate. Dog Hutch called Slotkin a queen. I listened to Pod Save America in 2018, and yes, that is how they feel. Yeah, well, Pod Save America in 2026 is like basically basically talking about how, you know, we really do need to have some communists in the party. I mean, this is getting a little ridiculous. So very different vibes over there at Pod John's. New ad with 600K behind it, backing Daria Lisa for New York. It features Noor Khalil, Mahmoud Khalil's wife, talking about how Adriana Espaillat abandoned them when Mahmoud was snatched. Constituent service matter. This is from the anti-AIPAC super PAC.
Me and Mahmoud, he's the only person that I have here in New York. I was 8 months pregnant, preparing for our beautiful baby boy. That's when Trump's ICE snatched him away from me. Mahmoud's arrest was the start of Trump's mass deportation machine. When we asked for help, Congressman Espaillat left me in the dark. Daria Lisa showed up.
We have to be fighting for a vision, and in electing a champion like Daria Lisa, we could have exactly that in Congress.
Me and Mahmoud.
Woo! Sheesh! No notes. New York Times, Hochul asked Zoran to back Espaillat instead of Daria Lisa. Oh yeah, no, I saw this. Sally Goldenberg reports another behind-the-scenes tidbit. Kathy Hochul asked Zoran Mamdani to back Representative Espaillat in recent weeks. He told her he couldn't, and a few days later called to let her know he'd be supporting Daria Lisa for New York instead. Within a day, Hochul announced her backing of Espaillat. This also throws a wrench in the Espaillat camp's statements about how Zoran had privately told Espaillat that he was going to endorse Espaillat, because if that was the case, then why did fucking Kathy Hochul ask? Why did Kathy Hochul have to call Zoran personally? Because that was the suspicion, right? Espaillat tried to imply that Zoran had made a deal with him. You know, an endorsement for an endorsement. Anyway, let's see what Daria Lisa has to withstand now.
Congressman Espaillat doing for AIPAC money. So the question to you, what are you doing for the money that's going to support you from Sam Marouk, also a very rich guy from Texas, and his super PAC?
I'm not sure. The super PAC?
You don't know Sam Marouk and the super PAC he funds, American Priorities, that's supporting your campaign?
I learned about that super PAC through the New York Times, the money that was being spent there. Again, I don't coordinate with any super PACs.
So you're not going to do anything for that money, the way you're accusing Espaillat of doing AIPAC's bidding?
Again, if anyone is donating or participating in this campaign in any way, shape, or form, it's because they believe in the values of this campaign.
Daria Lisa, can you respond to past comments that you said the U.S. was a, quote, fucking disgrace, and you also, you said the U.S.
It's so funny because they're like, Oh, God. Chris behaving like a political op here? Oh, he always does. Come on, man. Chris Sommerfeld, like, no diss, but I provided Avia Chevalier's campaign with a copy of the tweet and the question yesterday morning, so she has definitely had some time to review the context. Yeah. No, knives are out. Knives are out. Knives are out. But that's good. It's not bad. Because remember, look, I'm not tooting my own horn here at all, because like I said, always, it's up to the candidates. If they have the solid fundamentals, they will win. I can only fucking aid in the media attention potentially, or we can also go out and seemingly, from what I've gotten back from other campaigns that I've worked with, when we do rallies together, when we do this kind of stuff, like there are a lot of fucking door knockers, right? Like they see an increase in excitement and advocates, door knockers in general, fundraising and whatnot, small dollar donations. Daria Liza was not getting the shine that she deserves for quite a while. Okay? Now she is. That means that the machine has perceived her as a threat. In the past, if this race went along unacknowledged, okay, if this race went along unacknowledged, who knows which way it would have gone. Now it is being acknowledged. Now there is a lot of attention. And of course, it's mostly because Zoran endorsed her, obviously. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the attacks that she is receiving now might frustrate you. And you're like, well, she's such a wonderful candidate. Why the fuck are people attacking her? That's a good thing. Okay? That is a good thing. Because every attack signals one of her positions, right? If they hit her on like, oh, you said this tweet or that tweet, you can just like turn around and use that as an opportunity in the spotlight to push for your policies, to push for Adriana Espaillat's inefficiencies, his weaknesses. Yeah, she did a radio debate. I know, I saw. She did a radio debate on Brian Lehrer at 10 a.m. and torched Espaillat. Espaillat ended up lying about a bunch of things in that debate, including but not limited to saying that he actually offered support to Mahmoud Khalil. You would be a dope campaign manager. I would be an awful campaign manager. No, I would not be a good campaign manager. I am nowhere near crazy enough to be able to do that shit. Yeah, the October 8th rally attack is so stupid. Yeah, one of the lines of attack that she has been on the receiving end of is the fact that she was right, but too early. And I find that to be a very strange line of attack, especially when the overwhelming majority's opinion at this stage, especially in the Democratic Party's primaries, but across the board and even in the general, is that everybody's like, oh yeah, Israel's dog shit. So it is pretty funny. It is pretty funny that they are saying, oh, Daria Liza was right on the Israel issue and did not wait for the majority to shift to arrive at her conclusions about, about Israel's activity, its misconduct, its war crimes, its genocide. That is the best line of attack. Okay? There is, in races like this one, there is not a better line of attack to show that you are morally consistent on a 90-10 issue. Okay? And that's part of the reason why they're trying to literally hit this with like, oh, isn't there an inconsistency between you and Zoran? Zoran didn't attend this rally. Brad Lander disavowed the DSA for participating in this rally, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. Doesn't fucking matter. Okay? The October 8th rally, Jeff Colton says, was too soon and too controversial for New York City DSA, which is not true, by the way. They're just flat out fucking lying. New York City DSA did participate in the rally. Every socialist elected official, including Zoran Mamdani, avoided it, but Daria Liza Avila Chevalier, then relatively unknown, was there. I said premature anti-fascism is not a real critique. I get why many on the left see this as see an article in the mainstream press about Daria Lisa's Palestinian solidarity and assume it's a hit piece. But this story is really about the tensions within Mamdani's coalition between liberal Zionists and anti-Zionists. Well, let me tell you something. There is no tension. Okay? And Brad Lander is smart enough not to make this a moment of tension. That's it. There's no tension between Zoran and Daria Lisa on this issue. Not even a little bit. Because, once again, she's on the right side of this issue. And there is no tension on the Brad Lander side because that would only make him look bad. So why the fuck would he actually come out and be like, yeah, it was really fucked up that Daria Lisa attended a protest that I... why would he remind people that he might have left the DSA because of the October 8 rally participation? So, yeah, there's no real tension at all. Regardless of what Peter Stern says here, and he is obviously the most tapped in with New York City DSA-related issues, but I don't think that there is any real tension here. Because the only person that would, bring up the salience of this issue could be Brad Lander, and that would make him look bad, especially after they did this, Zoran Slate ad with, Zoran's Picks for Congress ad, on the Knicks game.
Damn, this guy's good.